Up in the club, eating up. Me and the DJ heating it up. Popping the bottle, no more Moscato. Let's take my jam over, I'll smash a Serato. Up in the club, eating up. Me and the DJ heating it up. Popping the bottle, no more Moscato. Let's take my jam over, I'll smash a Serato. Eating up. No more Moscato. Eating up. Up in the club, eating up. Me and the DJ eating it up. Popping the bottle, no more Moscato. Me and the DJ eating it up. Up in the club, eating up. Me and the DJ eating it up. Popping the bottle, no more Moscato. Let's take my jam over, I'll smash a Serato. Eating up. No more Moscato. Go DJ, please play that heat now. That super bass got me dead live. I'm Kurt Cobain like boom, boom. When it's in the room, game ice cold. I'm chillin' with the crew. I'm feeling like firecrackers, nice with the tune. Acting like a fool, don't play by the rules. Like a fool, don't play by the rules. Don't involve money that I don't accept. That time that it come correct. They ain't playing your best, then you will get left. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. That time that it come correct. They ain't playing your best, then you will get left. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. That time that it come correct. They ain't playing at your best, then you will get left. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. That time that it come correct. They ain't playing at your best, then you will get left. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. If it don't involve money, then I don't accept. Come correct. You will get left. Money, then I don't accept. Don't accept. Come correct. You will get left. Money, then I don't accept. Don't accept.
All right, let's get a second for this, but let me go add our wonderful new guests here with us at today. I'm not sure Freeman, we need a Freeman to introduce himself, but if you want to, again, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I think most of you guys know who I am. I do 1911. Yeah, well, you know, I do 1911s and Taurus and high point poverty builds, but you know, I like doing affordable builds that everyone can make. Yeah, just because, you know, most normal people can't just go out and spend $600 on a Glock because they feel like it. So that's mostly what I'm about and doing accessories, stippling stuff, you know, variety.
Well, those are all very wonderful things. And let's go introduce Dr. Death, the man of the hour today with the Biden's Bane. You are the beta development manager, right?
Yeah, my job is that I help beta developers get across the finish line with their designs. You know, I set them up with a room, help them find testers, help them find resources. You know, say you're having a hard time finding certain parts, I'll help you along to try and get those parts. You know, I know of a lot of smaller parts distributors that can help people out. And, you know, I do a lot of testing on my own as well.
I mean, we could talk a little bit about beta process a little bit afterwards, but let's at least talk a little more about the Biden's Bane in particular. I think, Freeman, do you have a picture on it still?
Yeah, sure. Let me get my screen share going again. 1 second.
But I mean, let's talk a little bit about, or at least it's the Biden's Bane. It's a 3D printed upper.
Yes.
That now that's been probably, I feel like a lot of people have been trying to make a 3D printed upper for a while now. You're not the head person on this one, but how did it basically start?
Well, it started out when the developer, who goes by the name of Co-op, contacted me around July, and he said that he had a 3D printed AR-15 upper receiver that he wanted to beta develop. And so what we ended up doing was setting him up with a room, and he gave us some test footage of firing about a magazine's worth of ammunition through it. And so we proceeded from there, refining the design, getting the tolerances right, dealing with heat mitigation, which was one of the biggest issues. And now it's incredibly reliable. It's able to handle mag dumps just fine. I've done it myself. It's accurate. It holds together well. It just works, to quote Todd Howard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something I kind of want to mention too that's I kind of found really cool. Particularly, what really stood out to me was that you were mentioning to me actually the Biden's Bane uses something similar to that of like the Amigo Grande's barrel or retainer type of a thing of how to hold the barrel down.
Well, right here, if you look on the screen, you can see actually how we did it. The handguard and barrel nut are all a single piece. And we use 4 M8 bolts that go through the upper into the handguard. And that will clamshell the AR-15 barrel in between them. And it just makes for a very sturdy mount. There's a little relief for the upper peg, so everything's aligned very well. And I've tested it a lot. I've shot it. I've taken it to the shooting range and managed to get the same groups that I would out of any other AR-15. So we haven't had to mess with that too much.
Well, I see someone
thankfully
mentioning something about what is it? I guess someone else was working. I think Proto Firearms was also working on an upper as well. If there was any association.
Yes. No association that I know of. I've spoken to Co-op. He didn't know about them. It's just sort of a convergent evolution. I'm sure a lot of people, with all the talk of bans and things like that, wanted to get this through. And thankfully, one of the greatest parts of the AR-15 system is that not a lot of stress is actually put on the upper itself. The bolt carrier and the bolt and the barrel and barrel extension all have the most stress exerted on them. So
right.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, because I mean, the set me, if we can get a set me to work fine, I feel like we could probably get an AR-15 to work just fine as well. I mean, I think what you were saying is right, though. Although I guess we were talking about this a little bit yesterday beforehand, but someone was also mentioning this about how does it handle with heat mitigation if it's all made in PLA?
Well, we did incorporate a metal bushing, and in that metal bushing, we used high temperature gasket material. And what you basically have to do is get the PLA away from the gas tube. The gas tube is the hardest part to deal with because it gets so hot. And so we relieved the PLA. We use a steel, essentially heat sink, available at any hardware store. I tested it with, believe it or not, a beer can just rolled up. And once you soak it in a high temperature gasket material, it insulates incredibly well.
Now, have you had anyone try it with like ASA or something, or ABS?
No, we have mostly focused on PLA plus. I believe there was some nylon testing for a while, but that's such a tricky material that the person, I think, gave up on it. They never tried nylon before, and it's not exactly the type of project that we wanted to mess with. With that.
Not fun. Yeah, it can be really annoying to tune that thing just right, at least the first time. But yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
But that's
exactly.
amazing. If it works with PLA, I think I have let me pull up the video for it too, since I feel like might as well show this as well while everyone's
absolutely
here. But let me get my screen share real quick.
I mean, PLA plus really is sort of the lowest common denominator. So if it works on that, it'll work on almost anything, except PETG. Don't use PETG for printing guns. No. Not a good idea.
Well, yeah. Or was it someone saying a better idea using metal with silicone than Middletown's mod of oversized hole and only high temp silicone? Well, I think the RV gasket maker is that's something like silicone, right? Too.
Yeah, basically it's it's a synthetic rubber material that just it's designed to work in engines. So if it's going to work in an engine, it's going to be able to mitigate the heat well enough for our uses, at least.
Let me
I'm
see.
not saying.
Keep in mind, there's like 5 or 6 different kinds of RTV gasket maker. There's the shit that's good for oil, and then probably the best stuff to use would be that orange Permatex stuff that's meant for like exhaust. That's good for like 1,000 degrees. A little bit overkill here, but it probably has better thermal properties. Would be my guess.
Well, let me first show this Magnum so at least everyone can see it and handle the heat.
Yeah.
Then. Well, first tell me, I'll play a little bit. Sometimes StreamYard's weird and doesn't play audio, so if you don't hear audio, let me know. Now, that's without a handguard, right?
Yes, this is the basic barrel nut, which is also included with it if you wanted to, for some reason, run a plain barrel. But the handguard is just an addition onto that. It's just built out from that. The real magic of the system... Go
ahead. You're good.
The real magic of the system isn't just using the gasket maker. It's the combination of the steel heat sink with the gasket maker that was able to really get us to a reliable a reliable point, I should say.
Well, yeah, because I know for this or Amigo Grande in particular, the barrel it's the barrel, the trunnion would get very hot, and you could still shoot it without RV gasket maker, but I think it was Ivan said like around like 60 rounds, it'll get a lot of shift and everything. For me, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's exactly what we encountered. Around 60 rounds without the heat sink or without the gasket maker, the gas tube will start to sink down and basically melt through the PLA plus and detonate the upper. It won't work anymore.
Well, I mean, because the thing that you would assume would be most of the heat is basically that gas tube area, because that's essentially where all of it's going to be. But yeah, that to me, because I know for me, what I had to do was I was going to do RV gasket maker, or I just did ASA. ASA seemed to work fine. I mean, that might be something I guess worth trying. Maybe
it definitely is.
Although you have to get a good enough setting so you can print overhangs, because oh my god, that would be annoying.
Yeah, no, I welcome people to keep messing with this system and keep refining it. I'm not by any means saying that we have the end all be all. There's always improvements that can be made, and I would love to see more people push into this, improve this design, keep it going, make gun control impossible.
Well, yeah, no, that was a fun thing too. When everyone was mentioning, or the most recent, or like the last week or so, it was Biden's little ghost gun thing, and that was the thing people were just automatically assuming was okay. Well, uppers are serialized, barrels are serialized. That's not what happened. In fact, I see Bulgan's in the chat as well. He was there to basically help correct that too. That's not what's happening. But what's fun now is we can say even if they try it though, we can make uppers ourselves too.
Well, not only can we make uppers, we can make lowers, and we also have, along with the Biden's Bane rolling out at about the exact same time, a fully printed monolithic lower. And with that fully printed lower, when you combine that with the upper, the only thing that you need to buy is springs, a barrel, and bolt and bolt carrier. You can print the fire control group. You can make your own springs, actually. I'm sure a DIY option for a buffer tube, if it does not exist, or not buffer tube, I'm sorry, buffer itself, if it doesn't exist now, could be very quickly made. And that's actually mine right there. That's my one that's put on that's the alpha of the monolithic lower. The latest version of the mono lower, the Monopoly we call it, is a lot nicer than that. It's got included sling swivels, or sling holes, I should say, and it makes for an incredibly lightweight package.
Well, yeah, you can make a what would Stoner do build even lighter now too, when you think about it.
Oh yeah, I would love. I'm actually going to get a Faxon barrel, because you'd probably have a 4-pound rifle.
Oh. I also see someone saying too or mentioning you can also print the bulk carrier too if you don't use a gas tube. Well, I guess
yes, that is something that we really want to look into. That's a really good point. we were messing around right now with bolt carriers, and anybody who wants to keep pushing that and keep working with that, either preferably with us, because I want to be involved because I like this stuff. But if you do it on your own, even, let me know, because that's a huge advancement. And you're so close at that point to a fully do-it-yourself AR-15 that it's just absolutely fantastic. I mean, you can get a Ivan's reading to me. You can get a barrel for like $69 if you know where to look, and this really makes the AR-15, what was already an affordable platform, even more so affordable. I mean, you're getting down into high point 995 territory.
No, yeah, it's honestly incredible. I also see someone saying a printed Brownell's 18 or 1800. That'd be fun, but maybe later. I guess that's something to try later. But I will say. I mean, you can go ahead. Actually,
no. I was just agreeing with you that a piston system would make this even better.
But yeah, no, I was gonna say, because, well, I mean, something I'm considering now too, because I remember how the Amigo Grande went. What about, or what are you printing this at? Like, is it 100% infill, or are you doing a lot of walls, or a little more hollow?
In my case, I always go with 99% infill. I try to go with the least fancy settings, because I've got to, especially being the beta manager, and not to toot my own horn, but I always think like, okay, if I'm just starting out and I get this file and I'm working off of the provided documents, what settings am I going to use? So in this case, it was 8 walls, 99% infill. I printed at 230 Celsius with the bed set at 70, and it came out fantastic.
Well, then I gotta also ask then, how much filament does this take then?
It's only a 24-hour print on my Ender 5.
Well, how many rolls?
I mean, in total, it's between the upper and the lower.
Oh, between the upper and the lower, you're going to use about 3/4 of a roll, I'd say. The lower is the more intensive part. That takes a half roll. The upper, like I said, it's the equivalent of printing a Glock frame, hardly uses anything. And then the handguard is a little bit beefier, but you've got, I'd say, 3/4 of a roll to 1 roll, depending on what your settings are, and the way that you want to run it, really.
Be a little bit hard to find somewhere to put a serial number plate on the filament spool, though, that's for sure.
Well, I did like the little picture of Biden. I guess that will be the serial number. Then maybe put it there.
Exactly,
the little ice cream cone thing. But I mean, I might as well then ask as well then too of. So I mean, how much have we shot this thing, or how many shots have people taken so far in the beta?
We've gotten on a single. See, we're upgrading the frames as we go, but the highest round count on the one that we've just been destruction testing basically is at 600 rounds. No noticeable wear, no noticeable melting. When we did the 90-round dump right there, there was no real issues with melting. That gas tube is insulated enough that it was able to tank that 90 rounds just fine. And that leads us to believe that unless you're doing like a meltdown video with just mag dumps and mag dumps and mag dumps, that's going to melt anything. This is a reliable system.
And yeah, I see someone mentioning something too that I noticed also with the Amigo Grande. It's, I guess, the printed rails in the upper. How well do those, or how accurate can we expect it to be?
With the printed rails, now I've got a very cheap scope on mine, and I was shooting groups at 100 yards, no problem. I'm not going to say that I'm the best shot in the world, but using cheap Barnaul ammunition, which I can only ever get a 3-inch group out of, I was getting a 3-inch group. So it's going to be as accurate as any other platform.
Well, I mean, yeah, to me, that's one of the other things I was trying to think about. What are the immediate things that I could see really failing on this? I guess if anything, too, then, I mean, what other lowers have you tested this with? Then I see that's a U bar right there. I also notice. I think we should also mention too that mag inside there isn't a normal AR-15 mag. I think that might be. We should first mention that, if anything. What calibers was this tested on?
Primarily, it was tested on 7.62 by 39, 5.56, and I believe it ran some 300 blackout as well before the ammo crunch got just too severe to really keep pushing that one. But it holds.
Shooting 300 blackout these days, like, that's a bigger flex than shooting almost a 50 at that point. Like, with how hard it is to find.
Well, you reload, so it's not the same for us.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Although primers are challenging.
Well, at least I don't know if we've tested it with the biggest boy yet. I just got done reloading a tub of 500 rounds of 50 Beowulf. So I'm looking right now if anyone can find a like a 10.5-inch 50 Beowulf barrel somewhere that's, you know, not super pricey. You know, let me know, just because, you know, that's sort of the one thing holding me back from finishing a big bore build that I can use to test this with.
I mean, if it could do that, that would be incredible. But let me see too. There was something I also just noticed as well, whether or not we can ECM a barrel yet. Not yet. That would be really cool. But I think there's a little bit more to an AR-15 barrel than I think we can right now do for ECMing.
Well,
the primary issue.
It's funny you mentioned that. It could just be, I think with Dr. Death that you were going to say about the barrel extension being the main problem, which I agree. I have been playing with some ideas, you know, sort of taking some, you know, hints from how AKs are assembled, like, you know, how you have, you know, pinned front gas blocks and things like that. I'm messing with some ideas on how we might be able to pin a barrel extension on. But then the other problem is, how do you cut the locking lugs? So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges in there, but, you know, what I could see, you know, in the future going forward, and, you know, anyone else who likes this idea that wants to steal it, you know, feel free if you want. But, like, you know, if we can come up with a scalable roller delay blowback design that can be made at home, you know, I'm sure we could adapt, you know, AR-15s to somehow use that. Would actually simplify things, because then you're removing the gas tube getting glowing hot as, you know, a durability issue with an upper like this. But, you know, like, all of this is foundational work to be able to make an open source, you know, printable rifle. You know, everything we're doing with the SetMe, the lessons learned there, you know, with these uppers, you know, it's all foundational.
No, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, a big thing you can notice with this, if it's a printed upper and a printed lower, well, then, you know, we could probably now, if we can get an upper and a lower to work for a rifle cartridge, we could probably figure some ways out to maybe scale this down somehow. It doesn't have to be exactly like an AR-15 anymore, but it's a good, if we can do this in AR-15, we can probably scale this over to other things as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. And not to say, like, I don't love the FGC 9 and, you know, Mod 9 for, you know, what they are, but, you know, we have so many pistol caliber carbines, and as cool as they are, it's like, you know, 9mm sort of has its limits. We need something that we can scale to, you know, something of like a rifle, you know, a rifle capacity, you know, that, you know, isn't based on a conventional parts kit design.
I'm also seeing someone right here says, what do you think about short barrel stroke? Short barrel stroke. It is simpler than automation for the removal of powder gases, but allows you to use fairly powerful cartridge. I'm assuming that's Google Translate.
Yeah, no, I've actually thought of that. I think that's really worth looking into. I also think tilting block is another one that we can really investigate, and there's a lot of options. If you look to the past, when there were weaker materials and people didn't have, you know, CNC machines, there's a lot that we can try to adapt from that time period. The early semi-automatic and automatic firearms have tons of just quirky systems that worked, believe it or not, but they didn't scale to an industrial computerized society. But for us, they will work.
I do see someone asking this question. I think this is a very easy one for us to answer, though. Could this be converted into a 22? Yes, and in fact, I think Bulligan was here. You can go. He has something like that right now. Yeah, the CMMG bolt is one of the most wonderful things, isn't it? But I'm assuming you could easily just throw in a CMMG bolt into this, and it should work just as good, probably, right?
Oh yeah, it just chug right along. No melting issues with that ever.
Yeah,
but I'm sure it wouldn't be that bad, man.
Yeah, I see. What is it? 3 arms says, bro, I have a roller delayed 12 gauge. Well, it's actually pretty cool then. I mean, if you want to send me some things about that, that would be actually cool. Yeah,
I've been talking to him. He's a smart guy. I wanna pick his brain a little bit on this, a little bit more.
Well, yeah, no, people are asking.
Just to clarify, is it a 3D printed roller delay blowback 12 gauge, or is it a factory made one?
No, that's the 3D printed one. That's yeah, that's I told you I was talking to him a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I wasn't aware that existed. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I also see someone mentioning about Young and Tactical. I've been following him too. I see that he's also been trying to work on a DIY bolt for a CMMG. So, yeah, no, I've seen that. I mean, to me, that would be amazing if we can just have a full 22 then, I guess, AR. Although, I guess you can kind of already do that with the 22 stuff, since 22 is not really that big or that hard of a cartridge.
Well, one of the really interesting things about 22 also is we just opened up a beta for a 22 long rifle ECM process.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's already been tried. I know the guy that did it. He's done it already. He's proven that it's workable. Now the big thing is making it repeatable.
Well, that's something I might want to be able to help out with then. But yeah, I also see too, then someone's asking, this was, I guess, the next question I was going to ask. We're hoping to have maybe Spooky join us, but he might be a little bit late, was will this fit, a Hoffman lower? Would this fit a Firebolt? Have you really tested it with any of these other?
It has been tested on a Hoffman lower extensively, actually. We changed a lot of it up so that it would work with the Hoffman lower because we know how popular it is. It's been tested on the U-Bar. It has been tested on a Vanguard. It's been tested on the Monopoly, fully polymer lower. It has been tested on mil-spec lowers. As of right now, with the exception perhaps of the Hellfire, I think it's compatible with everything. I don't know if it's compatible with the Hellfire. I haven't tried that yet. That side bolt kind of makes it a little bit trickier.
Now, I think the most important question that I think everyone is wondering about, what about those in the side charger gang? Are we going to have a variant for side charging?
Actually the dev is working on that. That might not come out in this version yet because it does lead to some issues with strength as the upper stands right now. But when we eventually do a V2, which there's always a V2, or just a fully different release,
there should be. Like there always should be a V2. I'm glad I sort of started that trend because honestly, I don't think I saw people starting to do V2s of anything until the low point. V2 came out, but
well, it's always nice to build up on, or I guess correct all like designs. Like I think Ivan's right now on the U-Bar too. I want to say as well for his or for the U-Bar at least. I do the Firebolt, so I don't really know too much about the U-Bar as much. But yeah, let me see what the chat has said. Someone's asking whether or not it would fit a Hoffman FRT or binary. I guess Hoffman has also a binary too, or is that the FRT?
That's more of a which one? Do you mean the polymer, the lower or the upper? Because that's more of an issue with the lower.
Or I mean, I guess the real question is high shelf or low shelf. But I mean, for the upper, that shouldn't really matter. Just because I thought that for things like Boogles, of course, if you have an SOT or binary triggers or whatever, that really is more of a high shelf versus low shelf receiver issue.
Well, I also do see someone here mentioning whether or not they have a Hellfire basically ready or Wildfire, whichever is the second one. I'll gladly run and print one, test it. Well, how would we, if someone wants to get on the beta, how would they do that? And more or less, what do we think what do we think about the time frame for it?
Right now, we're already in the very final stages of release, where documentation's getting written up, and we're working out that all the testing has really been done on it. Now it's more of a matter of making sure that we have clear instructions, clear settings, and we are able to tell people, okay, this is what you need to do. This is the print orientation that you want, and this is how you assemble it. And just getting those clear assembly pictures. I welcome if somebody really does. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's really the tedious part, just because I've already started writing the documentation for this. And just the tedious part is it's sort of like taking a YouTube video of going and shooting different things, or chronographing loads, or if you've ever took videos of yourself fixing a car, like you have to set up and stage every shot for every individual step, and then you go back and realize I fucked that up. Now I have to go back and take it apart again so I can get that particular shot. Or, if you're like me, you're lazy and you go on Gunbroker and you buy another kit and print another frame, and that's how you get your next set of pics for whatever you have to fill in. But it's just super tedious, takes forever, and then hopefully you don't you have people that don't find that are able to find clarity in the pictures, because I think we can all assume people don't actually read the docs.
Well, that's
like they might look at the pictures, but.
Yeah, no, how many people actually read print orientation settings and stuff like that is a lot lower than you would hope most of the time. But yeah, I would say, let me see what else I could see from some people then. But if you guys have something to say right now, or if anyone has any questions too, by all means, be sure to ask, because this is probably the best time to do that.
I was going to say, I don't want to discourage anyone. If you really do want to test this and you have the required parts, that's the big thing. Make sure that you have a barrel, make sure that you have a lower, make sure that you have a bolt carrier group, bolt and bolt carrier. Reach out to me or reach out to Co-op on Rocket Chat on the catalog, deterrence dispensed, and we'll talk. I'm not going to just shut everyone down.
And this actually sounds like a very good segue, because I know I'm not the only one who gets DMs asking, hey, can I get into your beta? So why don't we, if we don't mind, why don't we talk a little bit about what we actually look for in beta testers, or helpful things people can do when trying to get into a beta, so that we actually respond to them instead of ignoring them, because we have, tens or sometimes, over 100 DMs from people just trying to get into something.
Okay, that's a great point. The biggest thing is have a parts kit. If it's a parts kit build, have a parts kit. If it's not a parts kit build, if it's a total DIY one, make sure that you have the tools at hand. Because if you get put into a beta and you don't have a parts kit, and then that parts kit is unavailable, you're not going to be able to help. And I'm not saying that, then you're useless, but it's going to reduce first off, it's going to frustrate you, because you're going to see all these other guys posting pictures and their own feedback. And am I too loud? The other thing is that you need to be able to actually print. You need to have a test print, preferably, like a little cube. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, a benchy. And that is going to let us know that, okay, you didn't order a printer and you're still waiting on it, and you also don't have the parts. And, it's just going to let us know that you're capable of participating in the beta. Don't be overly boisterous. Don't be argumentative. Sometimes it's best to just sit back and listen. Everyone's got pride, and I'm not saying to let people walk all over you, but don't go in there thinking that you're king of the roost and everyone else is going to bow down to you. It's more or less just common manners.
Yeah, as a developer, it's like, especially if it's something popular on a beta that's not a closed beta, like if we're actively asking for people to come and try to test it, do things like, go and download my calibration cube. We're trying to standardize on something that not only shows that you have a printer that is together, but something where you can actually take measurements from it that we can validate to make sure it's printing dimensionally correctly, which for something like a gun, that's a little bit important. But otherwise, if you have a parts kit already, take a picture of the parts kit and prove that you actually have it. Just because sometimes we'll deal with people who just love collecting every STL on the internet, who will try to get into a beta specifically so they can get access to the files or for whatever they want to do with it. But there's a lot of trust we have in those beta testers not to leak files, or more importantly, to give us good feedback so that we can quickly get these releases out to everybody else.
Yeah, I see. Was it Default Arms also said another thing? Another thing. I don't think the beta is early access. Help the cause. Don't give and give feedback. Yeah, no. Betas are not really early access. You're supposed to be testing. That's not. You shouldn't be getting in there just to collect files. And then Vin also has another thing too. Please be respectful. If you are applying to a beta that needs a kit, at least respond if you have one. Not if you or not so if you don't leave the dev hanging. So yeah, if you want to go add something to that, since you probably have more experience.
And of course, use common sense. Like, if you have someone messaging you saying, "Hey, pay me to get into this Discord and you can get access to beta files," one, I don't know of any developer who actually does that. It sounds sort of sleazy, but two, like if it glows, don't touch it. Just keep yourself safe.
Yeah, you have to use common sense, especially when it's on something like Reddit, where someone's beta testing something on their own without an outside group. You've got to be very careful in those situations. You don't want to end up in a honeypot. You don't want to end up doing something that you shouldn't do, and you want to make sure that what you're actually printing is safe. I have had betas, that right at the beginning, when they're basically alpha level. I never let them get to beta if they explode, but I have had them very quickly come apart, on me. And that's something that you have to learn. And you have to recognize that is a challenge and that's an issue. And just be careful, be safe. Don't pay for things that that you shouldn't have to pay for. Use common sense, basically, is what I'm asking.
And more importantly, it's like, I know we all love, free and open source, GunCAD. So it's like, use common sense. If you see something that, is blowing up more often than not, maybe not a great idea to print it or wait until it's fleshed out. And like, if you're on the fence about something that is, currently released, but, you've heard, things about, not, being, maybe their most reliable or blowing up in your hands, as someone who's a consumer of those files, it's not unreasonable to say like, hey, give me a mag dump in the trash, show me 100 rounds with mag swaps and reloads to make sure that this thing is safe. Because as a developer, I know I don't release beta files to any beta testers that I haven't shot without with my dominant hand. So it's like, if I don't trust it to do that, I won't give those files to anyone else. But I also, I want to hope that other devs are like that, but that's not always the case. So, caveat emptor, but caveat emptor too. Buyer has to be aware, as well as the seller, in this case, the devs.
I mean, I know, because a lot of the betas I've done actually been from Ivan, and a lot of Ivan's betas are usually pretty much almost always just done already. He's just wanting a lot of people just to test it themselves. So very, very, like, the whole point of the beta is to make sure it's at least safe beforehand. That means, even with like some of the stuff that Ivan does, if you're not doing it properly, you can still have issues. But betas are they're not fully fleshed out yet. That's the whole point of it, is for you to go as far as you possibly can. So when it does get released, you can at least be able to rely on it safely. That there's been enough ammo through it, enough people trying it, that you have at least a good frame out there.
Yeah, and especially if it's a parts build, if it's something that's blowback, or something like lacks an out of battery safety, all factors where you should be highly suspicious even of stuff that you're building, to make sure it's safe. Common sense. Start with 1 round in a mag. If that works, load 2 rounds. And then, if it feeds and isn't jamming or going out of battery, then start mag dumping, prudently, keep an eye out for cracks. You can probably see that in some of my 1911 videos. It's like I'm periodically, turning the pistol over to make sure the mainspring housing isn't about to rocket man off onto my foot, if that part starts to break. So it's all part of iterative design and just making sure that you're not about to literally or metaphorically shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, when I think about it, I have one of the first video I took with the 3011 is just my first shot where this is like, I guess, the first handgun I'm ever shooting. And I don't have a way to really, it doesn't have sights. It doesn't have really any safeties on it. It's more or less a bunch of random screws that I kind of had at different varying lengths that were just long enough for it to work on plastic rails. I just remember me just kind of sitting there for at least 3 minutes, just trying to pull the trigger, almost just a little too scared. And eventually it's like, all right, screw it. I mean, I've seen Ivan do mag dumps on this thing. I should probably be fine, right? And then sure enough, yeah, it was perfectly fine. But I didn't just immediately start mag dumping.
Oh yeah, and if you don't see the developer themselves mag dumping the thing, it's like, why somebody would want to print something they haven't seen somebody mag dump is beyond me, let alone, give a developer money to develop something without seeing it fire more than one consecutive round in a row. But, that's part of where common sense comes into place.
These nuts and bolts or pins are horrendous. No reason you guys can't make pins. Interesting. I'm not sure what that's entitled for. Although I guess we could probably tie that back a little bit to it. I mean, is there any hardware kits? Is there any major screws you would need for the Biden's Bane? Well, at least bring it back to that then.
Oh, just commonly available number 8 machine screws. I believe 2-inch works, and that's all you need. I just bought a 100 pack. It was like $10, if even that, and that's really all that you need to put this thing together.
What would be super cool is if, I'm not the developer for that project, so I don't want to speak for them. But if they were to, to reach out to RK Spookware or similar, see if they could put together screw packs to just make people's lives easier. Like, I don't know about you, I don't like, necessarily having, buckets of screws around if I'm only going to build a couple of something. So, that might be a good convenience thing for people.
They could, but like I went down to my hardware store in the middle of nowhere town and they just had them. So you can just buy a few of them. No, you do not need 100 to put it together. You need, hang on a minute, 6.
At least 6 or 2-inch or 8 screws.
And I'm sure every single one of them will need their own serial number.
Well, so yeah, that's something interesting too to mention is it seems like Ivan I know likes metric. So does Spooky. And I don't know if Hoffman uses metric as well, but that's nice to know. I guess you're going to be using imperial screws, so that makes it a lot easier in the U.S.
Yeah, and
it's an AR-15. Why not use freedom units? This is America.
Well, you should ask Ivan that. It's a good question. But yeah, well, I mean, metric would make more sense. I mean, it is an AR-15 though, so I don't really know how many AR-15s will be made outside of the U.S. But
Well, you could, I'm 100% certain, use a metric screw if you were willing to test that out. I'm just guaranteeing you that in my case, and in the cases that we've tested, it works with the number 8 2-inch screw. And now 4 of those screws are left full length. 2 of them are cut down because we couldn't use standard takedown pins with the upper.
So, can you explain that?
Well, one of the main issues in early testing was that the lugs that attached the upper to the lower would shear off. So what we ended up doing was making bushings, and we made them mushroom shaped so they slide in, and you've got, they're easy to hold on to. And then the number 8 screw will go through those bushings and lock the upper to the lower. I'm sure you could just use some sort of a pin. I could not find a pin that was narrow enough that would work with the upper. But by using that smaller hole, it made the lugs a lot stronger and a lot less susceptible to shearing off.
Well, that's interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's just one of those interesting little quirks that comes up when you're testing a design. And I remember that was very early on that we had to adapt it to using the number 8 screws to attach it to the lower.
Because I'm trying to think about maybe there is a pin out there, although that probably would be, we're going deep for like McMaster's catalog to see if we can find the right pin size. Although that's where a nice thing would become really useful for a hardware kit then.
Yeah, yeah. If someone can find one and sell them, I will buy them myself.
Well, that's something we should definitely relay that to RK when this thing comes out then. But
well, I mean, in a pinch, I'm sure like, JB Weld and like, coat hangers, twisted together real tight would probably be okay. But
yeah, that would work.
I'm kidding. Don't do that. But if you absolutely had to.
Test everything. No, I'm kidding.
I've used Allen wrenches before, so sometimes it's whenever you need it. But hey, you guys don't need to be real scared of real pins. I guess someone really I guess this person really doesn't like pins, or doesn't like screws.
They do like pins. They don't like.
Screws,
I don't like this. I'm with you, buddy. I would love it if we had the real pins. And if you can find me those real pins, I'm on your side with this. And you don't have to use the screws. It's just what we tested it with,
But all right, well, that's good to hear. Then I guess that's something that I guess we'll have to look into a little bit more when it comes out. Then I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like gun control, we got to put the screws to it.
Well, yeah, that's the very. So let's think about it then. I guess what would be then? I guess you would need a barrel, you need a gas tube, the bolts, and that's pretty much, I guess, where the regulated parts would end then, right?
Yeah, barrel, gas tube, gas block,
buffer.
Yeah, the buffer, which I really think we could DIY very easily.
A 3D printed buffer, yeah, I think that would be very doable to do. But you know what? I mean, they could. I'm almost doing part of RK's job for him. He could call them the Biden's Bane BYOB kit. Bring your own barrel. Have everything else you would need to put the upper together, like gas tube.
Well, that's a fantastic. That's a really good point. We should definitely tell RK that is he even in the chat yet?
I don't know.
Oh, I guess not yet. Although hopefully someone can clip it out to him then. But yeah, no, I would definitely say it's I'm genuinely excited about this, specifically just because it really does bring down, I guess, the cost of, I guess, an AR then, depending on what actually ends up happening with parts kits and how those do end up going. If they actually end up trying to ban uppers and stuff like that, it's pretty amazing that we can actually make one that's, and hopefully we can see where it goes, what other things people can design from it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm confident, like Jeff Goldblum says, life finds a way. I'm sure, gun busters and the gun broker will find a way to stay in business.
Well, they're definitely gonna. I would assume that they would have a very vested interest in taking that to court as quickly as possible in case it does happen.
Oh yeah,
of course. And if anyone at gun broker is actually out there, I wish they would open up their API. But that's whatever.
Well, yeah, now, so let me take a look at this other stuff, and then let me see if anyone has any real questions again.
Yeah.
I see, some people making fun of Canada. That's an American pastime, so please keep doing that.
Oh, yes. Double down.
Yeah. All right, their beer sucks.
Good. A saw, and a coat hanger start there. It's simple. I'm not sure what that's in.
It's talking about the pins.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else. I once dumped in a mag, but I've never mag dumped. Okay. Doesn't seem like there's too much about anything else. If anyone has, oh yeah. I guess Evan Jones. He's the guy that made the giant flywheel one. So I guess that's he's made his own DIY delay system too. Then
he has, and that's something to look into as well.
Yeah, no, that'll be something interesting. But let me see also. Can we talk more about pins? I'm not sure. Maybe we can. Yeah, Phil Luddy. And what
Oh,
else?
Ludi. Yeah.
Ludi.
Well, he spelled Luddy, but yeah, I figured that was Ludi. Or is it actually spelled Ludi?
Yeah.
I thought it was with a T.
Yeah, Luty. Yeah.
Now, list 68 of Canada. Let's mock them. Mock then Euro Bros. Okay. Well,
oh man, no, that flywheel 4570 though, that thing fucks.
no, yeah, that is pretty cool. I like it a lot. But I guess if anything, let's mention. Might as well keep talking a little bit more about the beta stuff. Then we can keep it. We can keep it under 2 hours since this is, or for the nice daytime streams. I at least like to keep it short enough so people can hear what they want and they don't have to deal with too much afterwards. But
yeah, well, I would just like to say also in the spirit of DIY, 556 when it comes to the AR-15 does present some issues due to the bottleneck. But there are other calibers that you can make an AR-15 in, such as 350 Legend, and that can be ECM'd. And that is a very interesting intermediate range cartridge that can be looked into for a DIY AR-15 barrel. But the main issue is the locking lugs. So we need to come up with a suitable
that and ammo availability. I mean, you know why 350 Legend was invented, right?
No, it was made for out in the plain states where they have a ban against bottleneck cartridges for hunting.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah.
Well, you know, while we're just brainstorming, also, you know, we aren't limited to existing cartridges either. We can make our own cartridges. We can design a barrel to fit something if we come up with a suitable DIY cartridge. You know, I mean, the possibilities are endless, is what I'm saying. The sky's the limit on this stuff. There is no restricting human talent and human ingenuity.
you know, that's what I like about what is it? Suckboy Tony thing of just making his own caseless ammo, his own unique ammo. You were saying something, Freeman?
Oh no, I was just stroking my beard intently.
Oh, okay. But let me read some other things too. Someone also mentioned lost PLA. I'm assuming someone's going to probably ask, can someone lost PLA cast the entire AR?
I don't know. Someone who suggests lost PLA casting has probably never tried to cast anything and know how difficult it is.
Yeah.
How much file? Oh, I was going to say, how much filing and drilling do you want to do? Anything's possible.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems every time I've looked into it, I realize, wait, this is a lot more complicated than I thought this would be. Like it seems, I guess, what is it? Lost PLA casting. Also, you have to worry about scaling too, to some extent. It's not easy. I mean, it would be cool if you can get it to work well. I just don't know if people have been able to really get it to work consistently. In theory, lost PLA isn't worth it. Yeah, I would agree on that too. But yeah, print and orientation also really is important. I completely believe that as well. But let me see what else there is. But yeah, if you want to mention anything else, I guess, about, or if anyone wants to join the beta stuff, what do you need to do to get in, or if I want to start a beta, let's say I have something cool that I want to work on.
Okay, if you want to start a beta, get a hold of me. Just contact me on the Rocket chat. You are going to have rounds through it. It's got to be a completed design. It's got to be at least reliable. It's got to be safe. You can't come to me and be like, oh, I just made this, 4570 Derringer, and then you've got an image of it just exploding completely. You need to have a design that you're comfortable with, that you've tested. I understand certain people live in countries where they can't test their designs extensively. They have to do it very secretive. They have to be very careful. If that's the case, we will talk. But usually, almost it really is a rule. You have to have a design that stood up to repeated fire. It has to be.
Ideally, if you're trying to message Dr. Death to get a beta, take a video of yourself successfully shooting it. At least,
yes.
I don't know. Usually, if I see at least one mag, I'd say, okay, let's learn a little bit more. If I see 50 to 100 rounds, I'm like, holy crap, this thing is ready to go.
Yeah.
That said, if you have an idea that's not fully fleshed out, but it's something really cool or something involving, a lot of work where you might need, basically something that's more of an alpha, we tend to do a lot less of those. But if it's something cool enough, don't hesitate to contact us, especially if you're in a place where you can't live fire yourself, which is the only reason you're not.
Yes.
So, like, definitely, if you got some cool shit, contact us and we will try to accommodate as best we can. But, we sort of prefer, things that, already go bang safely.
Yes. Yeah, it's all about the fact that we don't want the beta testers to get hurt either testing this. So, use a little bit of common sense. Think to yourself before you submit a design, do I feel confident in this? And then we'll talk. And I'm a very nice guy. I'm pretty laid back, so I'll give you tips and pointers and everything else. And like I said, and like Freeman said, if you've got something really groundbreaking, I want to talk to you either way, because I want to make sure that that does get to the beta process.
Well, then, what's in your experience like? What are the pitfalls you would say then if you want to start a beta?
I'm seeing a comment we should probably address. So anything that you're doing that you want to bring for beta, for the love of God, please don't use Tinkercad or Blender. Use something that you can generate step files and ensure you have a watertight manifold model. I can't stress that enough. I know there are some people out there that have successfully gotten away not learning how to use a modern CAD tool. But, if you're designing something that goes bang, best to use, a modern tool where you can actually get solid files, if not so that people can, help and collaborate, if you need little tweaks or if you need some help, or like, let's say you want someone to make it pretty. For stippling, I generally need step files to do that. And if you, at the very least, thinking forward for, people that are going to be doing, continue working on it in the future. If you want people to remix your ideas, you need step files so that people who do know how to use, Fusion and SolidWorks, etc., can be able to go and then, remix them without having to try to reverse engineer an STL. So I would say that, that's almost, a deal breaker if, if it's an STL only proposed beta. But that's just my opinion.
Well, what's the object? What is it? Object, or the other one that's besides STL? I think that one also has
STL, OBJs. Those are all mesh files. So
from what I heard, OBJs have, I think, some values, or like actual like.
Sort of. They might. For all intent and purposes, sometimes they're a little bit easier to convert to T-spline if you're then trying to do a conversion to solid. But honestly, not really by much.
Okay, well, but okay, I guess you have to go. Or I noticed people mentioning their favorite CAD software. I got SolidWorks because I got it for free for my school, so I know it's quite expensive. FreeCAD, I've heard interesting things about FreeCAD, but
well, good luck finding a build of FreeCAD that doesn't break. Is all I got to say about that. But Fusion 360 and SolidWorks, you can literally get free hobbyist licenses for them. So if you want to learn them, you can literally do it for no cost. I have never paid for a SolidWorks or a Fusion license, and I don't have them through the educational. So you can definitely do it. If you don't know how, ask like on Rocket Chat, somewhere, and tag an admin or something. I'm sure they can help get you in the right direction if you absolutely can't find it any other way.
Yeah, I see with someone, Jonathan Joe started asking, is there a summary of the stream so far? We have a Biden's Bane, which is a fully 3D printed upper. It uses, well, I'll let you go ahead, Dr. Death, to do a quick recap if you want to help some people that just joined in.
No problem at all. The Biden's Bane is a fully 3D printed upper receiver, barrel nut handguard combination. It uses a steel bushing that helps mitigate heat with the addition of a high temperature engine gasket material. We've tested it for several hundred rounds, including mag dumps. It has no noticeable issues. It has no severe melting problems. And, as of right now, its lifespan is indefinite. We haven't worn one out yet.
I guess then also too, so for people that didn't catch it earlier, when do we think it's going to come out, and how do I join beta?
How do you join beta? It's going to be coming out very soon. They're working on the documentation right now. I can't give a precise date because it's up to the actual developer and how quickly he types, and how well they put together the actual final package. He has one posted, I see, but I have to look at it, and make sure that it's okay, or Freeman can look at it as well.
But you'd say
to
essentially
join the
soonish. Oh, go ahead.
To join the beta, if you really do want to help test out, and make sure that you have a parts kit, make sure that you have the barrel, a bolt carrier group, gas tube, gas block, and a lower, and get a hold of either myself or the developer co-op. And I would also like to give a shout out real quick to General Scotty, who helped a tremendous amount, as well as UberClay, with the final product. General Scotty added the forward assist and the shell deflector. UberClay did tons of just other development work with the handguards, especially the rails, and also put hundreds and hundreds of rounds of ammunition through this. Sorry, I didn't want to forget doing that.
Oh, but, I forgot to also mention too. I'm so glad you guys also put a forward assist on there. It's great. I like the
forward assist save lives. Forward assist save lives. I don't care what anybody says.
I couldn't agree more.
Stoner be proud.
Stoner was an engineer. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't know. He wasn't a nom.
The army was right. Okay, is all I have to say. But yeah, you were saying something more. Or I think you're going to add a little bit more to that too.
I was just going to say, get a hold of myself or get a hold of co-op. Make sure that you have the required parts, and we will talk. And I'm not going to exclude everyone just because it's really close. I love to have more testers. I love to have people that are willing to put their own ammunition through this, especially in these times when ammo is pretty either scarce or expensive. And the more eyeballs that look at this thing, the more chances we have to improve it going forward.
And I would add, especially if you have something weird, like, let's say you have a barrel for 458 SOCOM, or you just have stuff that tests a weird caliber that we otherwise might not be able to test, or in different barrel lengths. If you got something super long, or a super shorty, those are all very helpful things to be able to help from a documentation perspective, because then we can at least list what was tested. So from a safety perspective, people are a little bit less in no man's land if they're trying to use something weird, because it's all they can find. So especially if you got weird stuff, at this point in the beta, that's probably going to be better in terms of making a quality release, I would think.
Yeah, for example, my rifle, I used a 20-inch H-bar barrel that I just had left over from an old Olympic arms gun that I rebuilt years ago. And it's also been tested with a 7.5-inch super shorty barrel and 16-inch barrels. But the more weird calibers and the more strange combinations we can get through, the better, because people like to mess with their ARs and they like to do some interesting things. So we want to make sure that this is right.
I also want to address one thing real quick. I see Okomi says something about, can we see some inside pictures? Tech, I mean, also keep in mind it's still in beta. I don't want to be the one to leak things. I mean, if Freeman still has some of the pictures pulled up, I can show you the outside of it again. Sorry about that, but yeah, it is not up to me whether or not we can see the inside of it yet.
Yeah, I think. I mean, ultimately, that's up to you and the devs, Dr. Death. But I think, just because right now, from what I understand, there's at least 2 other people that claim to be working on uppers like this. So I mean, just because we're in beta, probably not a good idea to be sharing around internal dimensions. I don't know if you've noticed, for the 1911 or for the 92, we generally don't show pictures of the rails. And that's just stuff we do to help make sure that the ideas that we have are actually safe, because I would hate for someone to go to try and copy what we're doing, and just for the purposes of trying to rush to release, to try to be first, because that feels super good. But I'd hate to see someone get hurt if there was something we didn't catch or wasn't fleshed out entirely in beta before we decide to release it.
Well, I see that 3D Arms pointed out, and it is true that the inside isn't anything odd. It's neat, and it took a lot of trial and error to make sure that the dimensions were correct, but it's not anything absolutely mind blowing. Once you really get into it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just describing, not just in this case, but in other cases with, other betas where it's not just about parts fit, but, often taking something that, is, a very old design meant to be made on a bridge port, and, making it so that you can, turn it into a plastic receiver. There's often a lot of voodoo that goes into the engineering, in some cases, even stress analysis, before you even get to the stage of firing. So, there's just a lot that goes into it. You just want to make sure it's safe before you give anyone ideas of how to do it who may be less experienced.
Yes, exactly. The 1911 and the Beretta 92 FS betas, for example, they're perfect examples of designs that required a lot of engineering to make sure that they were going to be able to make the metal to PLA plus jump.
Well, that gives us a good transition then to, I guess Freeman to explain some updates on his project then a little bit too.
Sure. Well, I think we can, we could start by playing that video link I sent you.
Right. Let me go pull that up. I see people mentioning more takedown pins. Great. Here, let me get this now to show up. But, yeah, no. Will there be a version without forward assist? I think we already said there was.
Yeah, there is. There is, for you people that hate the forward assist, you heathens.
It's what Eugene Stoner would have wanted.
If you don't like the forward assist, I won't begrudge you. Everyone's entitled to their own wrong opinions.
Correct. I mean, you can just call it the Air Force Edition.
That is true. That is true.
Okay, I have it pulled up, so let's go and show, I guess. Let me go and show this video.
Coming down.
I think that was the 40.
It's not jamming.
Yeah.
I will say I like the camera angle. It seems like it's right in the middle of your... Oh, okay. Well, you've been taken down.
Whoa!
In live time. Okay, let me see if I can get back to the... Right here.
There you go.
I'm disappointed you haven't turned it sideways yet.
Oh, that's footage I'm getting this weekend.
Good.
It's not a high point.
You got a point there. But
well, I mean, this weekend I'm going to be trying to shoot double handy with the 1911. So hopefully, maybe I'll wrap up my left wrist or something. Who knows?
Well, I guess if you want to show some pictures too, but if you want to go ahead and mention some of the updates you've done, at least some progress of or what happened since last time we did stream.
Yeah, sure. So some updates there. So turns out soldering irons are a good thing, but they require some work to actually practice with them. So with this one, there is a little bit of reinforcement I'm messing around with just to try to make things more durable. I also did discover the lifetime of how long 3D printed rails last with 45 ACP. In my case, I got to around the 400 round mark before I started having hammer follow, which sounds super cool until it actually happens to you. Unfortunately, that wasn't on video. But yeah, 45, a little harder to control when that happens. But yeah, so the 3D printed rails are... they last for a good while on 45. At this point, I don't think I announced it yet, but the rails will be available exclusively from Aves at least for a year. So I'm working with him to get the rails made, and so we can at least test on them, and then ramp up for sale, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to build one of these things. But yeah, let me get a picture shared of something super Gucci that I built.
Joe, I've been wondering, is it Aves, Aves, Ovs? I feel like I've heard it pronounced like at least 5 different times, or 5 different ways.
I've heard it said about that amount of times. I mean, he probably responds to "Hey you" too, but
I mean, yeah, probably. That's usually how I refer to him.
Yeah. So
Aves.
there we go. I think. All right, sharing it now.
It's okay. Let me add it.
There it is.
Beautiful. So, anything, or what about the beautiful beaver tail? Now, I guess we have Bulgan here, and I hope he can appreciate how beautiful that beaver tail is.
Oh yeah, no, that whale tail is where it's at. So with this one, I don't know how many people out there know your 1911s, but this kit is actually a little bit special. So this is an AMT hardballer kit. So if you're aware of the movie Hitman, usually you could see people shooting two-handy with these things. That said, though, this highlights a good point about parts kit compatibility and something that's a very wide platform. So there were some changes I had to make. Haven't quite to the files yet, just because I'm taking some measurements still. But you can tell that beaver tail has a little bit of radius in it. You can't really tell from the picture, but basically I had to carve out to allow the hammer spur to be able to clear past the beaver tail. So a little bit of work there. Had to adjust some heights of with the slide stop lever to make sure that could actually engage. Mag catch pretty much dropped in, but I also have to do some fitting on the that's a new mainspring housing I had to get, because my kit didn't come with it. So yeah, these sorts of kits, sometimes they don't come with all the parts. They require fitting that you sometimes have to do by hand, or at least have to take measurements and sort of accommodate, especially for things that have some sort of provenance, history behind them. So this one is going to take a little bit more work before I go out and shoot it. But rest assured, just like in the Hitman movies, I have 2 kits for these. So the release video will feature me, double-handed shooting AMT hardballers. So that shouldn't disappoint.
Don't forget that the gun that Arnold Schwarzenegger uses in the original Terminator is an AMT hardballer long slide. So this is just a little bit shorter.
Don't get me started on the Javelina. Those things are nice, but the 7-inch slide on those things. Well, one, you can't find them. 2, when you can find them just in steel, a stripped slide is literally $500.
Yep.
So it's like
they are collectible.
I could, but should I?
I mean, if I had the money for it, I might as well. But I see someone asking a question.
If I get a Bitcoin donation, I could totally make that happen. But
that's
I see.
Someone's asking a good question. I'm not sure which one you're reading, but it's the one John Tram where he says, if it can take, can the 1911 take different calibers, 38 or super, 9mm 40 and 45 ACP? I'm pretty sure you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I'll let you go ahead and answer that yourself.
That is a wonderful question in the wide world of 1911 calibers. So 45 ACP is what I'm have been testing with very much so. So although it does look like you left off of one of the calibers I'm going to be testing.
Oh, right, 10mm, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. A little excited and scared for that one. But yeah, so we are testing basically as many calibers as we can. I specifically built frames and kits around 40. I had to actually piece together the slides from parts on eBay, for the 40 and for the 10mm, just because they're a little harder to find. But otherwise I did throw together a 9mm, a 38 super, and I'm waiting on the metal. I might test the 10mm on plastic rails. I'm still not quite sure, but that's going to be fun. I think at least one of our other devs that's testing it has a 400 Corbon barrel on order that they're going to try, and I think that's like at least 75 cents to $1 a round, so that ought to be fun.
Well, yeah.
But, yeah.
It's always the most fun when it's not your money.
Oh,
yeah.
exactly. And I mean, speaking of, I don't know if people realize how much devs spend on some of this sometimes. So, like at this point, from last count, I probably have $5,000 worth of like personal funds into testing all of this between ammo, kits, reloading components. Because I don't know if any of you guys have tried finding 38 Super, but in most cases it's on Obtainium unless you go to the true FUD Boomer store. So I'm actually having to reload that because I can't find it locally. So there's just a lot that goes into it, especially for something like this with a lot of calibers. But we are testing as many as we possibly can. And with the 45 frame specifically for durability testing, my goal, is to, we need to get a minimum of 500 rounds of 45 off of a single frame. I would allow for minor repairs just because sometimes cracks happen with variations, in printer, like you get a little bit of under extrusion. So hitting it with the soldering iron, I would say is acceptable as part of that testing. And I would ideally like to try to get it to 1,000 rounds of durability before having to do a reprint, which, considering some 9mm Glock frames can only get to 300-400 rounds before that happens, it might sound a little bit like a little bit of a lofty goal, but that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing also someone says they have 38s are super primed and ready. That's nice to hear.
It must be nice to be you. Those primers, what are you trying to flex? That's like a bigger flex than having a hardballer kit.
And then Triple F Tech is saying devs are perpetually broke. And even myself too. Yeah, I'd spend money on so much on ammo, I swear.
Yeah, shout out to Triple F though. I'm helping test that new AK mag he's been posting on social media, and that thing is going to be very exciting. It looks like it works great from the test videos I've seen.
Salty Mayo Monkey. That's a wonderful name. That 45 side is riding on polymer rails, dude. Oh yeah, no, not just polymer. I guess PLA.
Yeah, dude, those rails are PLA plus, and I got 400-ish rounds out of them before I had to reprint the rails.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, those rails you'll have metal rails with AVES, or what you said earlier too. So
yeah, they'll be exclusively available through AVES. And that said, if one or more of you out there are lucky enough to own a 5-axis CNC or have the ability to make your own rails, more power to you. I'm still going to be releasing the rail files themselves. Most importantly, they're going to be released without a license, under no license, basically, which means that I can restrict commercially who's producing them, at least from a legal perspective. But really, that's what this is about, because not only me, but Aves has he has funds tied up because he literally had to mill the fixturing for this. We worked a little bit to try to simplify the design, because one concern I had with a design this old, I wanted to make sure that we could affordably produce rails so that people could buy them without spending $100 on a pair. So the price point should be probably around the $60 mark per set is what we're looking at. Don't hold me to that just because it could change. But that's really where we're looking at the moment. And probably another couple weeks until I get some rails to test with. But probably another month and a half, 2 months until we're released to the public.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing someone asking, are the rails separate from the frame? I feel
they
like
are separate. Yes.
Yeah.
And then Stress 1911 with Clark 460 Rowland barrel spring 44 mag power squeeze into a 1911. Yeah, that'd be
sure. Like if that'd be cool. If you have the parts that you want to donate to me to test that, then by all means.
Well,
except,
that gives
make sure you send brass, because I don't have brass for that.
Well, this gives us a good point for you then to also then mention again, hey, I have all these cool 1911 parts kits, and I would totally be ready to help you out. How can I help you?
Well, here's the thing. Just because I'm a little bit damaged at this point, because I don't know how many people saw the little blue blankie freak out another dev had, right before the stream we had a couple weeks ago where we announced this. But right now, not to say I'm paranoid, but I'm keeping the beta more or less closed just because we have all the testers we need, and I'm trying to help avoid parts kit speculation where I can. In the event that there's still stuff we need to get, not having access to the files, means that they won't, the cheap ones won't suddenly go out of stock overnight, for people who know where to get them. So like if you have something especially cool or something we haven't tested yet that isn't 45, or something bigger like that for like that
460 Rowland.
Yeah, like if you have stuff like that and you're ready to put it together and test it, and you literally have loaded ammo or can load it up, definitely contact me on Rocket Chat or DM me on Twitter. But otherwise, we have plenty of people with, probably we have 4,000 rounds of 45 between all of the testers to put through this thing. So we're good up on 45 ACP. If you have anything especially weird, I might consider letting you into the beta just to make sure that we test it. But I'm just trying to be careful of this, just because, again, sort of like the Biden's Bane, this is foundational work that we're doing here, folks. So making sure that we get it right the first time and have a solid basis for people to remix it, means that, this is a very exciting time to be in GunCAD, but also a time not to be rushed and to make sure that we, get it right the first time. But yeah, I mean, that's more or less my reasoning for, keeping it closed. But yeah, if you have anything especially weird or cool that I don't have to test with, ping me and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Or someone's
Oh,
asking
and yeah,
about
22 TCM. Yeah, that should work. We do actually have a ramped barrel frame and an on-ramped barrel version of the frame. So like the footage from the 40 cal 1911 that was in that last video, that's actually a ramped frame that I was testing with. So both are being tested, and they're testing just fine. So 22 TCM, not a problem.
Yeah, no, that there's also, I guess we should mention too, the thing that someone tagged us on Twitter both together about the 22 slide, or the 3D printed 22 slide.
Oh, the 3D printed 22 slide. So I did, I have talked to them about it. The real question is, where they want to do the beta, just because they seem like they wanted to do the beta and release on their own. But, just in what we've been talking about, that actually brings up another good point. Dr. Death, do you want to talk a little bit about, some of just summarizing the benefits of, why developers, like if you have a really cool idea, what are they really releasing, through the best?
Well, one of the biggest things that we offer is just members that are willing to test. We can offer a lot of support. If you're having trouble finding parts kits, there's a lot of people, including myself, who know some very boutique parts sellers that can get you the kits that you need to do your design. There's incredibly talented people on that service. You also get a wider audience. You get a lot more contact with the community. You're able to make sure that more people hear about your design, more people get to test your design, more people get to see it. You get to build hype a lot better, and you get a much larger distribution once that file comes out. We have thousands and thousands of members. When you give me a design, I will ping the entire group and say, who wants to test with this? Then you get to choose out of all the people that come to you, this is who I want in my beta, this is who I want to test. Then when your beta actually comes out, you get a huge distribution network. You get to be put on the catalog. You are on basically on the forefront, one of the absolute largest, well, if not the largest 3D printed gun communities, development communities. You gain a lot more exposure. Chairman Wan did a lot of his stuff with us. For example, I know a lot of people know him. You gain a knowledge pool, and you gain distribution, and you gain a support network that a individual developer is not going to have access to.
Yeah, no, I was showing the footage of the 22 LR slide for some people that are asking. But yeah, no, I think that's very helpful, at least to hear, if anything, because I know people were asking about this, and I figured that would be also a good segue to mention that as well. because I'm not the right person to message for that.
Yeah, but I will say, at least in this case with this 1911 slide, I think it would be really cool, just because it seems like there's some good stuff going on here. I'd love to help, flesh it out further, just to make sure that it's simple to build, and very well tested, and more importantly, works with the 3D printed frame before we release that, the Boomer frame. So, if the devs, on the stream and listening, would, love to help you with, developing your ideas a little bit more, getting it into beta so that we can test it. But, there's just huge benefits to going, through a group, especially if you're less known. Like, if you're like, I know when I was brand new, when I was brand new in the community, like if I just put something on Odysee, maybe like, 10 or 15 people would download it without being able to, share on social media with a wide network of people that have a lot of followers. You're not spreading the signal nearly as much as you could be. So, yeah, that's something that we can, help out a lot with, just because we tend to have a wider reach. But no, I mean, I'd love to, make that happen, just to make sure that it works. And, frankly, it would, allow me to go shoot mine a lot more often without having to spend as much.
Yeah, it helps get your name out there. It helps you refine your design. And, at the end of the day, it takes some of the cost off of you as a developer. You're not the one that has to test every single little change every time. You get other people that are going to look at your design and be like, oh, wait, before we go forward with this, here's an issue. And you can correct that before you waste all the time and the plastic and even the parts in some cases, in really severe cases. It just gives you a safety net, and it gives you a support network.
I see someone asking me whether more questions about the 22 slide. That's another thing, is I don't really know too much. As of right now, it's just basically something that someone tagged me online, really wanted me to show, I guess, to everyone, that something they're working on. Whether or not we can get that into a beta or something, so to make it more than just a video that someone did, that would be the ideal situation, because that's really cool. And I think a lot of us would probably like the idea of, I mean, even if you can't get a full like parts kit, maybe if you can't get the slide, that would just also bring down the price, because the slide and barrel usually add at least another 150.
Yeah, it really can. But yeah, it would be really cool to make that work.
That's something worth at least. Yeah, that was something might as well mention. Also, I hear someone asking whether or not what's the best printer. Remember, the Control Pew guide is great, although I like the Ender 3 V2. Let's think about. I guess we can do one more thing. Freeman, you wanted to do one more thing, I guess, before the stream ends.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that thing before we close it out. So, this topic involves a so just to sort of preface it, I don't like, shit talk anyone, especially people that are trying to help, bring stuff to the community, whether that's products or anything else. But that said, I thought, based on some examining that I did, that this would be worth, just sharing with people a little bit more widely, just so that they can start asking questions and being a little more informed. So just one second, let me get the screen share going.
Yeah, no, I don't want this to be anything too like. This isn't me trying to. This isn't us trying to stir the pot of anything. This is something I guess Freeman showed me that I guess is something he wants to show everyone else. And I think it also opens up some good points. I guess we should probably mention it some things.
Sure. So let me. Can you see it all right?
I can see StreamYards. But okay.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit here. So we all know what the price of Ender 3s generally should be. And this is about 1776 Supply Co. Just because I know they seem like we've been seeing the name around a lot more. They sort of seem like they came out of nowhere in the community in terms of offering things for sale as a vendor to the community here. So let's just talk a little bit about some of what we've seen here. So if you'll look on the left, you'll see the price of an Ender 3 V2 here. They're selling for almost $350. Let's take a look at Amazon. Official from Creality, Ender 3 3D printer. And let's take a look at that price there. $189 for literally the exact same thing. I know that, so I don't know if, this is something that they're, shipping assembled, or I don't know what guarantees they have, just because frankly, I don't know a lot about these people. But, charging almost a 100% markup, a little less than that on a product, without adding any extra value to it is insane. And I thought that this is something that we should warn our community members about. To, at the very least, ask this vendor questions like, why are they charging so much for these products? And most importantly, what value are they trying to add selling at this price point? Just because, let's take a look at a positive example. I don't know how many people have seen the set me barrels that MAF has presented, or for the MP5 stuff also available from MAF. In that sense, they're taking parts kits, pressing barrels, and doing a lot of technical work where they add value. And that is definitely worth what they're charging. But that said, just charging almost a 100% increase, just to pad your bottom line, that's not a good look for a community that prides itself on free open source software.
I mean, I do want to at least say something too. Is like, I personally know nothing about 1776 supply. I only heard about it like, I think you just kind of mentioned it to me, and then you told me some things like this where I was like, okay, that's interesting to say the very least.
Yeah.
Although I will say there is one thing that I will. Like, I don't really have I don't know too much about what they're doing. I don't want to claim anything about them or anything. But there is one thing I did see on their store that I do want to mention, though, is the preloaded SD cards with G code. Usually, let's
take a look at that. So
I would say
no,
I wouldn't do that because that would become a fire. It's not that one.
Okay, so let's not show it. But bottom line, because I don't want the stream killed. But so the real problem there is that 1776 is selling preloaded SD cards with 3D printer files. That said, the files are they're not STLs. They're selling pre-sliced G code. Now, I don't know how much or how little some people know about this, but you can't just slice G code and have it work on every printer. It's very specific, and even if it is for the same model, your print settings will vary. You might want to run a hotter temperature, and you can't really edit G code after the fact. So trying to proclaim that you're selling something with preloaded G code on it, like, I'll be honest, either they just don't know enough about 3D printing to know what to sell, or like, this sounds to me like a fed honeypot.
So I don't want to claim
again, that's just my personal opinion.
I don't really want to claim anything. The one thing I really just wanted to mention, though, is that you shouldn't buy, or you should make or slice your own G code almost always. Everyone's printer is different, and if someone has a different printer, unless it's expected that you use an Ender 3 or V2 that I guess you got from their store, you'll figure out some people's printers are a little bit different. And that's one of those things where I would always advise against using pre-sliced G code. I know nothing about the place. I don't want to cast any dispersions on what I don't know enough. It seems, or JSD's in the chat, and they're describing that they've been in the 80% space for 10 years. That's wonderful to hear. In all honesty, the one thing I wanted to mention was specifically
there's a very big difference, I think, between what JSD is doing, though, and what 1776 is doing. While I have my my disagree sometimes, with JSD, the fact is, like he said, he's been in the space for 10 years. I know he's done a certain amount of lobbying where he spent, his own money, to try to lobby for, change in his own locality. And
they bought Eagle Arms,
Yeah, the fact is,
that was pretty great.
When the gun show tried to ban him from selling his products there, he went and bought the freaking gun show. That is the biggest brass balls I can think of, to try to continue serving your customers. So, those are the kind of people we really need in this space. 1776 with that style of business, I would love to hear more about their business model and how they can justify charging these prices, because frankly, I don't know anything about them. I see some cool Cerakote jobs, but like, where's the additive value? I would love to know.
Yeah, I see
Well,
JSD loves you too, so that's nice.
I was going to say, JSD there is saying that he's known them for 10 years. In that case, someone needs to tell them that they are exposing themselves to some liability with the pre-sliced G code. The printers are overly expensive, in my opinion. They are overly expensive, but someone needs to tell them that they can potentially get in trouble with this, and they could get other people in trouble with this, which is a big danger. You've got to be careful whenever you do business with someone. If they get in trouble, you can get wrapped up in that too. You never know how overzealous a particular investigator wants to get.
Well, my main
specifically, like, G-code is ITAR controlled. It's one of the few file formats for CAD that is actually mentioned in ITAR. And believe me, you don't want to be messed up. You don't want to be entrapped in some sort of federal charges based around ITAR, just because even if you can find an attorney to defend you, to give you a quality defense, it's very hard to fight the federal government on charges like that.
I mean, I'm just looking at someone right here. For me, really, the one thing I want to at least, if JSD can at least say anything, it's more or less just, you don't want to use G-code. I'm seeing someone saying you can easily edit G-code if you know what you're doing, and on like a text editor.
The people that are going to be buying this, though, don't know what they're doing. That's the main issue.
Also,
like, if you're a computer scientist that like knows, well, they're not binary, but like it's almost like editing a hexadecimal file in some ways.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about you, I wouldn't want to try to edit something that's as dimensionally, it has to be as dimensionally perfect, as a gun to have a successful, fire and long-term durability in a text editor. But
so, the thing is,
I do a lot of crazy things. That's just
what I wanted to describe those, because I don't think some people really understand the difference between STLs and G-code. An STL you can slice and you can do all the other things with. It's actually what most people would do. I think even MAF has STLs on theirs. Like, STLs are fine. In fact, G-codes, they might. I'm not sure, because I think the ITAR thing is still being litigated currently. But G-code is just not a good idea to give out anyways, just because it just makes more sense to tell everyone to slice it on their own.
Every printer is different, yeah.
Right, and a slicer will do a better job editing the actual, or trying to edit it directly, or more attuned to your printer than, I guess, what you can just freeball guess on a text editor. Because a slicer does all the work for you.
Like, if you want to put your favorite, Hawaiian flowers engraved into the side of your STL file for your Glock, it's like, good luck trying to do that with G-code. Like, even at least with an STL, you can do that in Tinkercad pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, but for me, my main thing was,
you can't really edit it. You can't really do anything.
Yeah, what I really want to say, my main thing of any of this, or the main reason why I even would want to mention this, is specifically, you don't, even if like ITAR violations, irrelevant, don't use don't get someone else's G code. You want to make sure, you want to slice it ahead of time for yourself, because that is honestly the best way you're going to do it.
Like, it would actually be a really cool video for Fudbusters to put out, talking about ITAR control and 3D printing. I think that would be a topic people would get a lot of value out of.
Well, but, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like JSD's saying here, that the G-code thing has been discussed, but he thinks that it's okay to sell within the U.S. on an SD card, but it's outside his wheelhouse. That's the main problem with it. It's such a complex legal issue, and it's just not good to mess around until you totally know what you're dealing with. That's my point of view on it, at least. If Fudbusters would do a video on it, that would be fantastic.
Or not to mention, something else we haven't quite talked about yet either in relation to this. Every vendor, likely handles their customer data differently, but especially in this space, we know almost nothing about how our vendors actually handle customer data. Like, is it deleted after a certain period of time? If there's a court order or a warrant, will they actually hand over the data to the feds? Will they have anything to hand over? So, those are all questions, or even worse, state of California. But, really, I think that, I wish our vendors would be overall, not just 1776 or anyone in particular, but I wish they would be much more transparent about, what they retain versus what they don't, so that people can have confidence, buying from them, that they're not going to be on a list, like the rare breed, stuff in some cases.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing I will. I mean, also, I do want to mention this. This is also something that, if you are to sell something like those files, I think this is a good idea of doing the 3M files, just because, yeah, you can also include slicer settings in them. I really do like 3MF files, but it's it's the one thing, like, you can say what you want about the rare breed CEO, Lawrence DeMonico. He at least, he's kept up with his word of he just deletes every single file. After, what was it, 20 days, if there's no chargeback, everything's deleted. So even if he gets rated,
I give him credit on that. I think that's a good model to follow, I think, as far as deleting data.
Or better yet, for like warranty purposes, have it be encrypted, have a hash that's sent in a one-time form to the customer that is then needed, by the company to actually decrypt the data to know if they actually bought a product from them or not, if it's still supported. That's a little bit more advanced, but something like that to still allow for support. Something else just related to around files being sold. I don't want to speculate too much, but are the developers being paid? Are these being just taken for sale off the internet without compensating the developers or even knowing what the licenses are? So, I mean, I don't know specifically what developers have stuff that's being sold on SD cards by them, but certainly, if they're just, jacking files from Odysee, slicing them and putting them on SD cards without compensating the developers or even asking, then, that is definitely not a good thing.
Yeah, I was reading what JSD said. My understanding is they're offering SD cards with STL files in addition to G code. When I was looking at it, unless it's changed, we would show that. However, that's the fun thing about G code also becoming, I guess, whether if it's ITAR or not, I guess that would mean it would be a firearm. And that's then YouTube has very strict rules and guidelines on showing people how to buy firearms.
We don't want to anger Susan.
There's few things I'm not going to do. We're not going to talk about the election, COVID, or showing how to get files like that. But
stream instantly goes down.
Yes. But that's at least one thing where that's a thing that I think is easily fixable. And if that's something that, we could just get kind of there, that would be the one purpose of that. Oh, his VM died, so that explains it. But I'm not a developer. I don't know as much about what goes inside to this type of thing. Freeman has, I guess, you have a much more different perspective on this type of a thing, specifically about about using other files. I'm not. Okay, you were going to say something, Dr. Death.
Oh, I was just going to say, I wasn't sure where you were going when you said what goes into it. I was just going to say, as far as what Freeman's talking about, crediting the developer is incredibly important. Those people put in hundreds and hundreds of hours of work into those files. And in a lot of cases, just like Freeman said, they pay for these with their own ammunition, and you're talking hundreds of dollars in that case. And if you're going to be selling their design, it just raises some serious ethical questions on, were they informed? Did they consent to it? And, it's one thing to say, I will give away my design. I will give away all of this hard work, which is one of the reasons I think our movement is going to succeed over gun control. We don't need someone who's a billionaire to bankroll us into saying something. At the end of the day, those advocates for gun control don't care about what they're doing. They're in it for a paycheck. We do this for fun. And to loop back to what I was talking about earlier, to take all of that hard work and then someone else make money off of it with no credit, it raises some serious issues to me. I would also like to say, as far as like the hardware thing, just to say real quick, with the Ender 3s, if you're getting into this hobby, this lifestyle, however you want to style it, search around, try and find a good deal, go to reputable people, try and find your parts as cheap as you can, or if it's something that, if you want something super fancy, go for it. But don't just visit one site. Look around, JSD's in the chat, that's someone that he sells awesome kits. I'm not gonna lie about that, and there's other people, always look, always check out different people, always it's not a phrase, it's a lifestyle. Yes.
Yeah, I saw Chairman One. Yeah, no, what happened to Chairman One recently? I'm not sure if people saw that. But first, actually, before I do that, I just need to mention this because this is something. All right, look. Yeah, since whether or not I'm not saying whether G code is freedom of speech or not. That's not what I'm even trying to go with. You're not going to hear that argument here. My main argument is that a normal person is not going to just instantly know what each G code line means unless they have some sort of like index, which is not what normal people are just going to do. What makes more sense is just to give them an STL so they can slice it themselves. That's my thing. I don't really understand what you're even trying to go with this. But
if it was up to me, we'd have rocket launchers and vending machines. But
right, yeah, we can talk about this all the time. But
yeah. The reason I'm saying I don't want someone to get in trouble because this is such a knife's edge issue, and you got to be careful because we are on the bleeding edge of Second Amendment rights. We are forging a new frontier here, and that carries with it a lot of risks.
Yeah, let me just finish up because I just had to acknowledge that one thing. But let me just mention this too, because this is kind of the thing that I at least want people to know about. Because if you are brand new and you don't know anything, but you just see, oh, well, I'm going to search up these files. This right here, let me see if I can get the screen share up. Because this is not, okay. This right here, where you can see Chairman One found our files being sold on Cultist.
Yep.
That, if you don't know any better and you're brand new, you're just going to assume, or that's just, you're just getting scammed. I don't know how much these people are making. I saw I think, what is it? Yeezy mentioned that he knows one of these guys like made over like well over 4,000, which is baffling to me. To us, it's very easy to see, yeah, this is clearly a scam. I don't do that. Go to Odysee. That's obviously where you're supposed to do. But if you don't know anything, you're brand new, you're getting into this, and you don't know that, well, that is just a scam. You're just scamming people out of money.
No, you see this on the news, and you're like, oh, wow, these cool things that I can do. I'm going to look them up. And if you come across that first, which, let's be honest, you've got a pretty good chance of coming across that site first. You're going to be like, oh, wow, I can get a Glock for, I don't know what they were charging. What was it, $15 for the file that's free? A lot of people are going to fall into that trap.
And that's one of those things where, like, I know this because I have a friend who's getting into printing right now, and that's something that he's actually sent me a Cultist thing beforehand and said, hey man, why do I need, like, I thought you said you don't have to pay for this. So like we can pretend like we all will immediately spot this, and yeah, maybe we do, but that doesn't matter. There are a lot of new people getting into this.
The STL aggregator. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's Freeman's back, so let's first add him. But you can go ahead and say that.
Oh, I was going to say also, like cults or cultists, however it's pronounced, the STL aggregator sites pick them up. So if you're looking up something like Glock STL, there is a very good chance that if you're just going to one of those big aggregator sites, you're going to see that file for sale. And it's hard to recognize that when you really are involved in this lifestyle, when you really do know what you're doing. You've got to kind of step back and think, okay, if I was just coming in this now, it's really, it's unfortunate.
And I'm seeing right now some people that are just saying, I do CNC work. I know how to just do hand do G code. Okay, great. Now explain it to someone that hasn't done that. again, 9 times out of 10, it will be easier just to give someone STLs. Okay, you can do it, but give it to someone who's never even knows or has never even held a 3D printer before, has never even done a CNC router, because that's what a lot of the people that are doing 3D printing have never had experience with this stuff. I know.
In fact, some of the designers haven't even been 3D printing for that long. I know I didn't even buy a 3D printer until October of 2020, and I didn't start design work learning Fusion until I started on the low point version 2, which was around December of like 2020. So there are some of us who are designing cool stuff and really don't have all that much time in the space.
Yeah, someone's saying, point is it should be considered free speech. Well, yeah, no, that's not for argument here. Don't worry.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you're gonna get me. You're not gonna have me argue that. But what I'm saying is, it is significantly easier to explain someone STLs than not. And then someone's also asking here, Cheeseburger, did they stop? The files are out there, and the OG people made them are usually for free. That's robbery. Yes, they are still out there. But that's the problem, is they are still out there, and they are charging, and it's until it gets taken down, and that's until that gets taken down. It's until it gets taken down.
Well, and then there's nothing to stop them really from uploading again and just doing it all over again.
Yeah.
And that's something that, whether or not it's important to be somewhat at least hesitant before you start spending money on or in something you don't really understand, because a lot of people are new. And if people are new, they're just not going to know any better. I mean, I only thought you can get files from DefCAD. So Odysee isn't the first place I would assume to go to for most things. Because if you're going to search up 3D printing, the first places you're probably going to check is Thingiverse. And there's no files on Thingiverse. Oh, none that you probably should download. Yeah, none that you should download. Let me rephrase that. None that you should download for shooting. But, that's a good place for everything else. If you don't know that, it is very easy to basically get scammed and stuff like that, where you'll see, oh, well, it's a Chairman Wan Glock. I've heard of those. I saw a PSR video about Chairman Wan Glocks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if they just say, oh yeah, no, this is a Chairman Wan Glock. It sounds like he endorses it. Of course he didn't, and he's not getting any of the cut of it, but someone's making money, and it's not the person. It's just some random dude. So that's something that, it's important to at least call out, to let people know that. And that's kind of at least the one thing I at least want to at least help people with know. Oh, I see. What is it? Apparently someone or Spooky might want to join it at some point if he gets in or not. I'm not sure if he'll be able to make it, but I'm not sure if you guys have anything else to add to that.
No, I think you did a great job there. Freeman?
I mean, I really don't have much more. I mean, if people are going to charge money for stuff, just make sure that you're in some way compensating the dev. Otherwise, it's like, how do people expect development to continue? Not to say we do it for the money, but you have to make sure that if someone is having trouble paying expenses for development, that it's only fair to compensate where you can. Like go ahead.
I was going to say, because that was something that JSD was mentioning up here, was I think these designers should figure out a way to make money. And I mean, I agree too, to some extent. I would love it for a lot of these places to allow designers to do things. What I do like, about what JSD does, and I think what MAF does as well, they like to fund developers that are, that do good things for them. And that's perfectly acceptable. It's just, this is not that. This is, you might think that's what's happening when you do this, but it's not. And I think a lot of people are kind of like me in that, well, I mean, I do like what Chairman Wan does, so I might as well give him some money. This money isn't going to him. And you have no way of knowing that unless you pretty much already know it. Unless you already know this is a scam. But
yeah, no, exactly. Like most people don't, know the grift so much. In terms of some of this stuff happening where you just steal a file, sell it. Then if it gets taken down, re-upload it elsewhere. It's not an uncommon thing for people to do with other 3D printed designs. So, this isn't, it's not really a unique problem to us. But I think we just have to find ways to, make it, more fair so that, devs are incentivized to do good work.
Let me read this from Vin saying, selling pre-sliced models, WTF, or selling another dev's work is blatantly disrespectful to them and the community. It shows you are here for a quick buck without offering value.
Yep.
And I mean, there is no other way to describe what this is than just pure grifting. Because this person, like, if you're doing this, this is just like, this is.
It's a scam.
It's a scam, and it's like, it's disgusting. Now, again, I do agree with, or if you're going to be using something of a developer, you should at least, ask the developer ahead of time. Someone was mentioning, I can understand selling remixes. Well, at that point, yeah, you're getting to a point of, well, how much is it transformative and stuff like that. Like,
you're adding value. You're adding value in that case. If you want to say it that way.
I mean, and it really depends on how much you're transforming them. Like, like with some of the stuff that, Chairman Juan does, or some of the stuff I do with making files pretty and, more functional stipply, depending on how you're doing that, that could add a lot of value or a little value. Just, purely adding like, a pretty picture or a mosaic into the side of a Glock file that was just otherwise made by somebody else. I don't know. That's sort of a little bit more of a gray area, and it's kind of hard to say. But, how transformative the labor is, you just have to sort of, judge for yourself. But if it's a space scat, yeah, probably a lot. If it's just like a simple picture, extruded into the side of a panel on a grip, maybe not so much.
So yeah, no, there's something I messed up with too earlier. I kind of mentioned, I was basically describing something as a Boolgan. No, there was a thing, or it was Vin's design, that Boolgan remix, and that's something that I have made that mistake a couple of times so far. That's what is it? The SG22, I believe, that uses Vin's design, and it's a remix of it, the Boolgan version, Space Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Vin would be the first to tell you that is it's unique enough where it's not really the same thing. Those are remixes. Now I think there was another guy in Cultus, I forgot who it was, but they would do a thing where they just put their own like little logo on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was literally just they just attached a logo to an FMDA side of the Glock. In which that case, like, that's just, come on now, that's just dirty. I don't really think anyone would consider that really transformative or anything. That's enough. That's for them to understand what I'm doing is wrong, but here, let me at least kind of just have this just in case. And,
yeah, that's really not good.
Yeah, and then here's Bulligan saying, yep, the SG22 uses Vin's and Ivan's base designs with full attribution to both, a very modified U-bolt lower and a very modified Daichi upper.
Yep. You're transforming those designs. You're building on what came before you, which ultimately is what we want. We want people to be able to build on what came before them, ideally for the betterment of the movement. But if people are charging for things, it should be worth what they're charging. It should be, you should always give credit, first off. Like I said, tons of hard work came from that base, or went into that base design. And just slapping a logo on the side of a Glock and calling it your own, that doesn't really pass muster to me. I mean, I could put a Sonichu on the side of one of Freeman's designs, and make the most cursed gun ever, and I don't feel like I deserve any money for that. Probably execution.
Well, someone's also saying right here,
too, like, there's things that devs can do, in some cases, to help cut down on people's, I'll just putting it in my local colloquial to stop other people from selling their shit from under them. So, some of those things, like, something I've started doing that, Triple F Tech also does, is in many cases for accessories, only providing it as an STL release, which I think is more than acceptable for something like an AR-15 grip or any sort of a pistol grip or foregrip, because you're talking about something that's not overly complex. I'm pretty sure he has, stubs for grips, that he makes publicly available in step form. So it's like, if you really wanted to, you could go out and make your own grips, and like the critical dimensions are already there. So it's like, and it's also something that's very easy to sell. So that's one way I know some developers are trying to protect themselves, but it's a shame because, like, I want people remixing stuff and making them better and continuing to iterate, And basically, as a reaction of people trying to monetize and make a quick buck, it prevents us from being fully open to be able to make sure people can continue remixing them, which is a problem.
Now I at least want to mention something. So we had Spooky on here. I was hoping to get him on a little bit earlier so we could talk, or when we're talking about the Biden's Bane. But this is also might as well because he's also a developer too to some extent. Spooky, you don't need as much of an introduction because you're always on the channel. However,
I clearly missed a spicy conversation.
Yeah. No.
I'm on the tail end of that one.
Well, yeah. No. You came into the wonderful part of it. This is. I love having Freeman on for good reason, but yeah, here's something that I think you'd love to. Maybe you can comment on. You all are designing. You all are copying the original AR-15 design, so you all are copycats. Now, who wants to, or which one of you guys wants to be the one to answer this?
I think it's more appropriate that Spooky does since he's done more on that platform than I have.
Sure, I'll take it.
Go ahead.
Wait, what's the question?
It's on the screen. It's you are basically. How would you respond to someone saying that you're basically stealing?
Copying the original history. You are all. Oh my god. You're all copycats. All right. Yeah. No, that's not how that works, dude. That design is public domain, I believe, right? And that design has been. It's no longer. What's the word I'm looking for here?
It's in the public domain.
Yeah, it's not not patented. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not
copyrighted.
Copyrighted. That might be it. Or just controlled information. It's not like it's somebody. It's not like it's some company's own design that they're controlling. They're like, oh yeah, this is ours. This is ours. We have a patent for this, this, and this. We made this. Blah blah blah. Like that design's been out for 70 years, I think. Something like that.
I mean, you can find.
Well, and most guns, like a lot of the guns that are out there, are based off of that platform.
Well, the STL file format and step file format are both copyrighted formats. If you want to be technical about it,
I would like to point out just very quickly that nobody is saying that they invented the AR-15 when they put these files out. No one is saying
that's also a good point. No one is out here saying like, "Oh yeah, I made this. This is my original fucking design, my gun." No, it never existed before. No, we're making printable versions of the firearm. That's been the whole point since the beginning.
I mean, probably the easiest way I could summarize my view on it is, if you're trying to simplify it to the point that you're asking that exact question, you obviously don't understand.
I mean, why are we talking about copycat shit anyway? Why is he bringing that up?
We were discussing.
What's the gotcha there?
Well,
we were discussing. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I think Freeman was the one that brought this most of my attention. So I think he should be the one to give Spooky a quick rundown for, I guess, a good way to wrap up everything.
Yeah, sure. So the rundown of the more spicy part of the conversation was basically talking about 1776 Supply Co., who seemingly came into the scene almost from nowhere, offering Ender 3 V2s with a pretty substantial markup, some parts kits with 100% markup over what you could buy commercially, just from other sources, and basically just huge markups, and also selling pre-sliced G-code STL files for developers without actually. Go ahead.
Hold on. Selling pre-sliced G-code?
So this is the part that I was more I don't really know anything about them. I'm not going to be the one to say whether they're or honey. I don't want to throw anything like that. I just don't know enough about them. But what I will say, what my thing was, I was basically, I think what is causing this person to be upset is when I was mentioning about how you can't really do anything with G-code. You want to slice your own G-code.
Are they selling the fucking 22 mags from that CMMG kit on their website?
Yes.
Oh my fucking god, are you kidding me? And this guy's fucking going out to bat for them? You gotta be fucking kidding me, dude. That is not the hill you want to die on. 319 complete box for $500. Oh, good. It comes with a spool. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, and don't forget for the $40 spool Polymax.
Can't forget about that. Code. Are these guys... Dude. You got to be fucking desperate or a fucking moron to buy this shit.
Or
oh, good, there's only 6 left in stock. Get it soon.
I mean, like I said, my personal opinion, nobody else's, is that it's either stupid, a quick cash grab, or they're feds.
Lesson 1 that I learned when I first got into 3D printing: you never print anybody else's G code ever. You never. There's rare exceptions to that, but they're few and far between.
10 little Indians, you aren't doing anything. You're concern trolling. Like, you're concern trolling over nothing. This is an argument that no one's really discussing.
Yeah,
you're getting lost in the weeds.
No one gives a fuck about copycatting. Everyone makes copycat shit. There are literal
guys,
fucking grips and shit out there. And everything. It doesn't matter.
Well, friends, we can ignore it. The thing that trolls hate worst is being ignored.
That's very true.
I mean, I just found. I mean, P80 Ralph says he's known them before. I mean, again, all I wanted to mention was, where
feds have been around for longer. P80 Ralph.
Freeman told me some things as a developer. He wasn't wanting to mention that, and I can understand that from a developer standpoint. If you're not getting credit for things, well then, that's something, as a developer that you'd like to at least. I can understand why that'd be a thing. For me, the immediate thing I could see was G code.
I mean, the thing that hits for me the most, other than possibly not giving people credit or money for their files that are being sold commercially, is like, come on, you're charging $650 for a fucking Sarco 1911 kit that you can buy all day for $285, or if you want the fancy Novak sites, $340. Selling that for $650, just come on.
I think the point is, even if they're not feds, it's not a very good place to buy your supplies from, in my opinion.
I think it's preying. If it's not feds, it's preying on the new people, the new aspects of the community, and being like, oh, I can just go here, pay a premium, and I can get everything right there. I don't have to do any of my own thinking. It's stupid.
I agree. I agree 100%.
I mean, what really caused all of, what at least makes me want to actually talk about it, because what you just mentioned was there, and I was showing this. This is what you missed beforehand. I think this is what caused it a bit. Oh, let me close down a bit. Yeah, so this is what I was showing was, like, this is, I think, what caused the whole copycat thing of, what is transformative or not. This is basically a scam.
Trending, it's good.
Yeah, this is a scam, and that's what it is. Like, this is something that people make a shockingly high amount of money with. And if you're a developer and you see your design being sold, like something like this, I mean, I don't know how I would react to it. At that point, it's more of like, well, shit, that's just a like, you don't want them to do that, because they're not, that money's just, you're just scamming someone. You already put the files out there for free.
Wait, that's not even their own fucking design. That's
that's not chairman's. No, this is
literally chairman's fucking.
That's chairman sold. Yeah, chairman's block being sold. Yeah,
piece of shit.
Yeah, no, that's what someone is selling.
What site is that?
That's Cultus. That's where basically all the spade happens is Cultus.
Fucking god, dude.
Yeah, so like it's one thing when you're that was the thing.
Ratings.
Like it's nothing different. It is exactly the same thing, and you're not the developer isn't getting anything. Now, there's nothing wrong for me. I don't care that much if developers want to get paid for some things. Look, if they're developing it, it's their design. They get to choose how they want to use it. I like it a lot when they pull, or when someone likes to make theirs free and open source. But if you're not designing it, you're not designing it.
Well, Vin said it in the comments. It's a matter of respect. It's like, I don't expect to monetize my design such that I can, pay my rent on them. But I do expect a certain degree of respect. Someone just jacking a file and putting it on Cults. I mean, at first I thought it was a little bit flattering that, because I've had it happen before, and I've had to report people taking some of my poverty build Taurus frames and, putting those on Cults for sale for like, $20. But, so I've had to report those before, but I don't know. It's just really a respect thing.
And that's kind of the main point of all of this is, there's a lot of people are new to this. There's a lot of new people getting into it. I have a friend right now who's basically, I'm telling them everything to get. He got his printer basically solely out of Control Pew's guide. So there are people that kind of, they know that this is a thing, but they don't know really any better besides that. No one really, I guess the average normie doesn't really know too much about how Odysee works. Sadly enough, that's just a grim reality of it. I don't think many people think to go to a video hosting software service for files immediately. But once you figure it out, then you're not going to get scammed.
Yeah, this is.
I mean, they're definitely not. They're definitely not the top search result in Google.
I mean, well, Pew gets his
by design, probably.
Yeah, that's the problem too. Is Pew will always get his site basically delisted every single time something happens. But these are able to easily jump up. Oh wait, Chairman says he can hop on for a second if I want a 1776 story. Well, you know what? Fine, let's get.
Absolutely. I do want to hear a quick rundown on Dr. Death's Upper, and my only question is how.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought Spooky would have been a great person for this. So yeah,
I just want to know how. I never even thought this would have been possible.
Okay, it's not my upper. It's not my upper.
Well, I just want to know how. No. I just want to know how.
It's other devs. Okay. I mean, either the rundown is that it was baby hands and a tiny bit of pixie dust.
Okay.
Let me send Ralph. Let me send. Chairman the stream. But it was mostly the gas tube. Or they used a similar barrel or locking mechanism to what is it? Ivan did, or for what is it? The Amigo Grande. Which
it clamps, and then the main issue is just dealing with the heat off the gas tube.
Here, let me just put a picture up. 1 sec.
Yeah, I'd love to see something.
Oh, Chairman unfollowed me. I guess I retweeted too much anime. Okay.
Yeah, that happened to me too. It was a struggle of 3,000.
Don't worry. Let me go and have to go find that again. Okay. But you can keep talking about that so we don't have dead air.
No, I will. Yeah. Okay, so basically, what we did was we relieved the upper a little bit, and we used a big steel bushing and a lot of high temperature gasket material, and just made a big insulator for that gas tube. And once we did that, the upper was able to handle the heat enough that it lasts through mag dumps. And we've tested it. The one upper has, I think, 600 rounds on it right now. We just did a 90 round mag dump test. The one guy did. I'm going to do one as well. I eventually do want to melt one. I want to see what it takes to do, because I know I can do it.
Yeah.
But
there we go. I think I shared the picture. I'm not sure if anyone can see it.
Because that's huge. That's honestly huge.
Yeah,
that means we can print the entire thing, sans the barrel and gas system. And of course the bolt carrier. But you can.
We're discussing bolt carriers. We think bolt carriers might be possible. Not the bolts themselves. Yeah, there's a guy looking into it now, and then I've got a couple people that I've noticed have messaged me that are saying that they've got some stuff going on. So
are we talking printed or jerry-rigged?
They're saying printed, and I've seen a printed carrier these people are smarter than me. I mean, these people are way smarter than me. The Biden's Bane, by the way, was done by Co-op, was his name, with significant help from General Scotty and UberClay. I just want to throw out the attributes right there.
We can print the lower. We can print the grip.
Yep.
And in some cases, that's one piece. We can print.
We have a monolithic lower now that's coming out too.
So mine, you can print the stock. You can print the buffer. Not necessarily. Obviously, we need spring for it, but that's easy to get.
Oh yeah.
And now we can print the buffer and the handguard.
Yeah.
That literally leaves the fucking barrel and the built carrier.
I'm so glad
and the gas tube and gas block. But honestly, you can make a gas tube out of brake line.
Well, that is true.
You're not wrong.
Now let me go. He's been sitting in the back room a bit.
I'm imagining right now a radiator hanging off of an AR-15 so I can disperse the heat, and then it goes right back into the gas tube. That's what I'm fucking guessing.
Hold that thought while I add Chairman to the stream. But Chairman is here as well.
The most meth-induced fucking.
Hey, howdy, boys.
What's up, my boy?
How's it going? I wanted to make this thing water cooled at some point.
That would be a lot of.
Oh my God! Exactly what I was going to say.
Biden will resign that day.
My favorite part is the little ice cream bit. If you scroll onto it, if you could zoom into the Joe Biden licking ice cream.
That's cherry.
It's a cute little touch, I think.
Dude, we can start modifying uppers to make them real space gaddy. Like fuck, dude.
Yeah, I know. It opens to me when Freeman told me about this. Like, this is amazing. We need to do. Let's talk about this thing immediately because this is huge.
Yeah.
I would like to someday flip it upside down and make like a Bren gun looking thing.
Question. I'm guessing you've printed those. I mean, one of those is yours, right?
One of these isn't mine. Freeman has a picture of my one.
What's the orientation?
Step back. Oh, there's my Gucci build. There it is.
What's the orientation of the upper on the print bed?
On the print bed?
Yeah.
Right now we're going vertical. Or not vertical. Oh my god. Yeah, no, not vertical. Horizontal. Jesus Christ. Vertical vertical came apart.
Yeah, I kind of would figure vertical would come apart. Okay.
No, horizontal. You know, we're gonna put all of that in the. This thing's just about to drop, so all that's gonna be in the docs and everything.
Where's it gonna be at?
It'll be on the catalog.
Oh, guys, we have drama to talk about. All right.
I know.
Sorry.
Can you stop talking about guns here and designs? Oh my God,
I thought we were doing 3D printed gun internet blood sports. I didn't realize we were actually talking about developing frames and doing real work here.
I mean,
hi Juan.
Hi Chairman, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, guys.
I guess. Do you have any thoughts immediately about the Biden's Bane? Might as well get your opinion on it because you
looks fucking sick. I can't wait until I can't wait to actually like see some of these almost fully 3D printed ARs out in the wild.
I'm absolutely gonna water cool my AR-15.
I didn't.
You need to.
I didn't think 100% would ever
water cool.
Someone's also mentioning something about how they're. Our water cooling is, or someone said, I thought of a forced air cooled AR-15 with JP rifle barrels. I've mentioned it before in the chat. That would be.
Do it. I support all of this.
We can get the RGB going. You get some pretty lights, you know. It's gonna be great.
Let's set it up with a pintle mount. Okay, we're gonna put an FRT in it. It's going to be water cooled, and it'll have a radiator underneath it, so that way you can just keep going.
The radiator will be the grip. Okay, it will incorporate it
Perfect.
into the grip.
Evil SD, you're saying Chairman 1 should be in the middle of the stream.
So guys, we could go even lower tech with this. You know those fans that go on top of like a wood stove that are thermal powered? There you go.
I'm sorry, I'll shut up now.
We're transitioning down a road of methamphetamine that we don't want to go down, guys.
I like the idea of like having.
This must be tested in Florida.
I was about to say this is peak Florida, man.
Peak Florida. We got to shoot.
Have you guys applied to that Caltech job? Is this just an elaborate Caltech resume?
Well,
I heard Chairman had a story for us regarding.
Let's get the drama out of the way.
Our new 3-letter agency that we found.
Okay,
we can. 1776. So I just hopped onto the stream like while you guys were talking about it. Like, what did I miss on stream?
I mentioned something about or Freeman did most of it. My main thing was I was arguing with some dude about G code, and my main point was, don't use someone else's G code. Slice your own G code.
Ever. I totally agree with that. So I didn't think that like pre-sliced G code was a thing anywhere. And then have you guys ever pulled any of the models from like the like Prusa kind of like model website thing where like the Prusa version of Thingiverse?
No, because I haven't heard of Prusa.
Because we're all poor fags, like, yeah.
Right, yeah. Now, maybe we had Hoffman on here. He can explain us how Prusa works, but I haven't touched a Prusa before.
So the actual normal way that the models are put out on that site is because, like, the assumption is that you have a Prusa i3, is they actually, like, pretty much every model on that site comes just as, like, the G code to print on your Prusa. So my first thought with the fucking G code thing was, like, that's a fucking terrible idea. But if they're packaging it with a printer they sell, like, I'm not going to go so far as to say it's a good idea, but
Yeah.
there's definitely like precedent in the industry for people doing that. Like, you know, say what you want about Prusa's being overpriced, but like, you know, Josef Prusa, he's not like a fucking charlatan or anything.
So for whatever it's worth, though, like packaging files with a printer like that, if you're also selling like, you know, a Glock parts kit with, you know, complete with that, you know, how different is that from a build by shoot kit? You know, that's a P80.
Yeah, we should let Biden know.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Good Lord.
in theory, like in fucking what's the shit? Like in the spirit of it is the exact same, but I mean, they didn't fucking write a rule about it yet, so I think they'll be fine. I think they can get away with it.
I laughed so hard at that fucking press conference. Holy shit.
It was wonderful.
What a giant fucking nothing burger.
Yeah, no, Spook, if you were watching, you should have just jumped in the stream. But
I was at work laughing my ass off, dude.
I
was watching your stream laughing my ass off. Holy
Like
I'll post some
I was watching the White House.
We got more AFTs.
no,
While he was doing that, I walked outside. I had my headphones in, and I just mag dumped the Biden's Bane.
no,
Yeah, stop us now.
like when you told me that, I was like, oh my god, that's actually amazing. Then because the immediate thing everyone said was, oh yeah, I really liked it because Bulligan was here for that, but I like going over the actual White House document and then the ATF document. Of the White House document made it sound like they did so much more, but when you actually read the doc, it's like, oh yeah, no, they did literally nothing.
Oh yeah, no, it's the silliest thing I've ever seen.
It was a virtue signal, but I guess buy build shoot kits were the only ones that are kind of effective.
Well, the build by shoot kits had already been banned, so I think they just threw that in there because it was like, oh, like look at this egregious thing, but like they had already taken action on those kits. I think the only thing that's really new about this is like shipping jigs with frames. Like I think it's so like as long as they're separate, it's okay now.
Yeah,
I mean, we can print the jigs, so it's not a problem.
I mean, I feel like we're more at the point now. If you're going to be doing this, you should probably, if you're going to be a vendor, you should take the rare breed stance of just deleting everything, like making it clear that you delete all of your records immediately afterwards. Or, well, guess what is it, the 20-day thing? Because it seems like it could easily, or it's at that questionable point where you might as well also protect your consumers.
Yeah, because I mean, this is also definitely one of those things where like the new rules are so vague, it's not going to be like I feel like we're not going to get clarity on what it means until we like see who gets rated. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's why I feel like for companies, it's better to just go that route immediately, just because they'll do it at some point, but you know who knows at that, or who will figure it out at that point. But
I mean,
either way,
if we want to take a super capitalist approach to it, you know, I think that, you know, vendors, whoever they may be, could make it a very big marketing point to only hold on to customer data for X amount of days, and you know, just make that sort of anonymity a selling point. You know, in terms of the data not being held onto, and effectively not making it raid proof per se, but making sure you don't permanently end up on some sort of a list that can then be subpoenaed later.
So I was at what's it called? Like Guns and Bitcoin with Jordan and like the JSD guys. And like we were actually like this was like a topic of conversation, like just when we were there. Because like we were there Saturday, Sunday. This rule was announced Monday, but like everyone knew it was coming. So it's what we were talking about. The only issue with that is like, okay, like how do you handle returns? Like how do you handle customers?
So I mentioned something about that. A very simple solution that would still retain privacy. Have unencrypted records deleted after a certain point. Have the customer be sent basically the equivalent of a PGP key or some sort of an encryption key that is literally on their invoice, but not otherwise possessed by that vendor. Then, if they need support or if they need to look something up, have a portal where the consumer can then very easily copy and paste that hash or password or whatever you're using in to decrypt the column. And then that way, if you have to hand anything over to the federal government, oh, look at all of that. It's encrypted, scrambled data that you literally can't do anything with without actually contacting every customer, which you can't do because you don't know who the customers are.
Well, so this is wonderful and everything. This is we can talk about our solving payment process and everything. I want to keep the daytime streams a little bit or more focused on the type of design things. I made a wonderful exception today, but if you want to come back tomorrow, everyone's invited for a wonderful bundle of spook thing when we go through Pincus versus Chipman. We're probably going to go through the same exact arguments again. But if you want on for that one, that'll be later tomorrow. But our chairman.
Okay, yeah.
Let's at least tell your story.
Let's hear the story.
It's fucking story time. Alrighty, so this all I didn't know anything about these 1776 guys. Like, this was totally out of the blue for me. But like, someone sent me one of their product pages on Instagram, and when it was sent to me, there was no attribution. It was just like, hey, like, look at our product. And it was, a kit with pre-sliced G-code on a SD card. And like, yeah, I mean, it was like obviously my files. And I put my files out under like a pretty permissive license. I use GPL2. So basically like do whatever you want with it, but like you can't re-release it under a more restrictive license, and you can't like re-release it without attributing it. But you can like totally commercialize it. Like that's totally allowed. And like, I would never want to like stop people from doing that. You can't just like host my files and charge for them. But like, if you want to make an actual commercial product that uses the files, that's totally fine. Like, you don't need my permission. You don't have to even tell me, as long as you're, complying with the other stuff in GPL2, which is just, you can't restrict it any further. So I was upset, to put it very mildly, and I actually haven't told this story before because
so it's an exclusive. Okay.
Well, the resolution was good. I think that, at least for me and like my concerns, 1776 ended up doing the right thing. They're obviously still new to this, and like they're doing things that a lot of people are going to like have big problems with, but I don't want to like go in and say like, hey, make a big Twitter post, hey, these guys are like violating my IP, like fuck these guys. They fixed it. They're not violating my IP. I have no beef with them there at this point. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to like make drama for something that they resolved. You know what I mean? Because like at that point, like, what incentive is there for other companies to like actually work with me to fix a problem if I'm just gonna put them on blast? You know what I mean?
So, but they didn't ask for anything ahead of time then?
No, so they didn't contact me ahead of time, and they were in violation of my license when I first saw the product page. So like some big no-nos for me. And I'm a professional product designer. I've been doing this for 10 years. I have experience with companies, mainly, Chinese, Italian, Turkish, fucking with my designs and ripping me off. Like, that's a thing that I've dealt with for years. The general way that I approach that isn't to go talk to an IP lawyer, because especially internationally, like, that's really stupid. You're going to throw away more money than you'll ever get. The way you deal with that is you talk to your vendors. So if a company is ripping off a chair that I designed, well, I know who makes the components for that chairs. I spec'd it. Like, I designed it. I know where they're getting their shit. So I go to those vendors and I say, hey, like, what the fuck? You're selling these people components to rip me off. Like, fuck you. So that's what I did. These guys were violating my license, ripping me off. So they were selling it alongside Polymaker filament, and obviously they needed rails for the FMDA compatibles. So I talked to Aves and Riptide. I'm like, hey, like, do these guys have vendor accounts with you? Like, what the fuck? Like, don't sell them shit until this is resolved, because, like, fuck that. And they didn't with Riptide, they did with Aves, and Aves was like, yeah, done. Not just let me know how it pans out. Polymaker, though, woo-wee. Okay, so first off, before I did any of this, I was upset, and I called them first thing in the morning, and I didn't call just like their fucking like storefront. I pulled the business records and I called like the number on the business records. So the owner answers the phone, and I'm like, "Hey, Chairman Juan here. You're violating my license. Like, we need to talk about it." And I feel like I got blown off. In retrospect, it was like 5 a.m. in California when I called. I just didn't consider that people might actually live in California.
They shouldn't.
Disgusting.
Yeah, they shouldn't. Like, who lives in California? So I was like, okay, like, they're not fucking dealing with me. Like, all right, like, let me talk to the vendors and we'll at least put the kibosh on this until they come to the table, right? So talk to Aves and Riptide. Yeah. Reach out to Polymaker. So you guys might have seen me post like a Twitter post, weeks and weeks ago where I was like, hey, I'm not going to like explain why, but like Polymaker is not all talk. Like, this isn't just like clever marketing on their part. They actually like will have your back as a 3D printed gun creator. Like they walk the walk. So I messaged Polymaker. I'm like, hey, these guys are infringing my IP. They're selling your filament. Do they have a vendor account with you? Like, what's going on? And they were immediately like, oh, no, they don't have a vendor account with us, but they applied for one. And yeah, that's your IP. Like, you talked to them. They didn't give you any resolution. Okay, we're terminating our relationship with them. Like, we are pulling out of discussions to be a vendor with them. We're not going to sell them filament. Like, let us know if this gets resolved. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, Polymaker will just get to these guys whenever. Cool. Like, awesome. Thank you so much, Polymaker. You guys are super cool. No, they fucking like just called them right then. So from their perspective, they get a call from me like ass early in the morning being like, hey, we need to talk about my licensing. And like 2 or 3 hours later, fucking Polymaker calls them and is like, yeah, we're not doing business with you anymore because of the Chairman Juan IP. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to always tell this too, because people always say, "Oh, Polymakers, Polymaker show, Polymaker." I find it too. Like,
while you're sucking Polymaker off, I'm gonna grab another Orion real quick.
Okay, I'll let you finish up the story afterwards. But yeah, Polymaker actually is good. Like, it's actually good filament, but like they've really shown to a lot of people like who they're willing to work with. They're pretty good about it. This doesn't really shock me too much. I didn't expect them to go that far. That's an incredible thing to do. Now
I will say, I would be buying Polymaker, but I've made it a challenge to myself to make sure my prints print and work in the absolute most garbage filaments possible. So that's what I've been doing.
Have you been using Jayo filament? That one's great. It's like
whatever mine is. I'm pretty sure it's Chinese, but it works. It's PLA.
What's that other one? Duramatic. I tried that once and it was horrible.
Overture is not the worst I've experienced. I kind of like some of their colors more.
No, Overture's all right, but the one I'm using is the most budget I could find.
Like, so. I basically prototype everything in Overture because it's more cost effective than buying Polymaker out of pocket. But Polymaker's good shit.
I like Polylite. It's pretty good, but I guess, Chairman.
So
let's finish it up.
So yeah, I don't know if Polymaker called him or whatever, but they heard from Polymaker. They knew that I had talked to Polymaker somehow. And I get the call, and it's like, we're both the big mad. So they get back to me that day, and like, I'm incredibly pissed off. They're incredibly pissed off. And I swear to God, we're yelling for, it's an hour and a half call, and we're literally screaming at each other for a solid fucking hour. Like, it's the most... I haven't like yelled at someone like that or been yelled at like that in years. Like this I literally like I lost my voice for a few days after that. Like, I literally couldn't talk. So we're yelling at each other for like a solid hour. And then like after like, and so there was a few things that we were like talking about, like the G code thing, which I've come around on. I actually like, when this happened, that was like a sticking point for me. Now that I've seen what like Prusa is doing, I actually don't care about the G code thing anymore. Like, what they're doing, like shipping G code files for firearms, I think they might get in trouble for. But as far as like the current rules around it, I think they're probably fine as long as they're shipping it physically to like US addresses. But it was like, so it was mainly like the attribution shit. So like, we're like yelling at each other, and it's like, okay, guys, just like here's my license. Like, so like after an hour of yelling at each other, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Like, they're like, this isn't how it's done in firearms. And I'm like, well, this isn't how it's done in product design. Like, you should have reached out to me. You should have reached out to us. Like, we're just fucking yelling at it. And like, I'm like, and I think the turning point when I was like, guys, this like isn't personal. Like, I don't know who you are. This is just like how I would deal with any IP issue with any of my designs. Like, I might not be a firearms professional, but like I'm a product design professional. Like, this is how I would deal with it and have dealt with it in the past. Like, what am I going to do? Like, go to a fucking lawyer and say, hey, I want to file the lawsuit. Guy who gives his work away for free versus company who hasn't made any money set like infringing his IP yet. Yeah, slam dunk case. Like, I'll take that on fucking spec. Like, no, of course, that's the dumbest thing that I would ever do. No, I'm just going to talk to the fucking vendors. Like, of course that's what I'm going to do. So after like an hour, we kind of like come to an agreement. It's like, all right, guys, like just like you change this stuff. Like, I'm not going to talk about it. I'll give you the chance to like change stuff before I like talk about it. And I mean, like, this is the first time I've talked about it. Like, I haven't publicly spoken about this at all because the resolution was they did the stuff I asked for. They provided the source files with the G code, which is part of the GPL license. They attributed everything correctly, at least for my files. And, you know, I think it remains to be seen if, like, their business model is a good idea. If they're going to have happy customers, like, shipping G-code with enders. Sorry, one second. But, you know, that's on them as a business. That's just a business decision for them. I have no problem with them anymore. I know, you know, Booligan talked to them today just about like improving attribution for his designs. I mean, so yeah, I mean, talk about a company that like got off on the wrong foot with me and with other designers, but they've been receptive. Like, they changed their branding from Stark Technologies to, well, they just removed that branding. People were like, no, that's like a dumb idea. Don't do that. You're going to like either offend people or piss people off. They listened. They changed it. I was like, hey, you're like violating my license and not attributing. They changed it. So I think, these guys are obviously coming in from like outside, like the meta. Like, they don't like know what we consider like proper stuff. But when you yell at them for an hour on the phone, they seem to come around. And I don't think everyone needs to do that. That was just how we started. No, I mean, like, I hope they find success doing what they're doing, and I hope they, you know, continue to just like improve on how they treat designers, represent designers. I think it's fine as long as they listen to people when they say, hey, like, you're fucking up.
I mean, yeah, I mean, personally, I don't really, like, I've never heard of them before. I don't have any real interest in, like, I don't, whether they, or if they are listening to people, that for me is perfectly fine. Like, that's good to hear. I think I care more, at least, that, yeah, developers are at least getting the correct attribution, because a lot of things, I think what you described is, yeah, they're coming new to the space. And I mean, if you don't really know the stuff, you kind of don't realize that. That's not a thing you should do. Like, taking developer stuff without really telling them. That's
and I mean, you know, like, I get it. Like, if you're coming from like, oh, we're like cool firearms industry guys, and like the people you're dealing with now, like, what we do is like a lot more just like open source software dev when it comes to like the culture and like what people find acceptable. So, you know, I'm not surprised that there were some missteps there. Like, I mean, I'll call them out. I mean, like, I talked to them today because like Booligan wasn't happy with how some of his stuff was being attributed. And he was like, hey, like, what the fuck? Like, can you talk to them? And I talked to them, and they talked to Booligan, and there was a resolution, and people seem to be okay now. I mean, you know, they're not perfect, but when people...
So, Chairman, it might be a simple, just a basic question, but, you know, after you talk to them about it, why wouldn't they go back and fix their attributions for everyone else is something I'm wondering, though.
You'll have to ask them. You know, I was very specific about, hey, here's my license. You have to get in compliance with my license for my files. And yeah, like, talk to these other designers and, you know, do the same thing. I think they did talk to Booligan, and they did do some attribution, but it sounds like it was spotty. Like a lot of his stuff was attributed, some of his stuff wasn't. So, I mean, you'll have to talk to them or Booligan for that, but I can only really speak to my conversation with them and their treatment of my files, which is really the only thing that like I actually have like a leg to stand on for it.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course. I'm just saying it seems a little bit strange to fix the attributions for one person, but then not go to fix them for everyone else. But yeah, that's what it is.
And I totally, yeah, and I mean, I totally agree. And I, honestly, until Booligan like brought it to my attention this morning, I thought they had done the exact same stuff that they did for my files, just for everything. I hadn't, given them much attention since like we yelled at each other for about an hour. So yeah, I mean, Booligan wasn't happy this morning, and it looks like they weren't attributing some of his stuff properly, and that's fucked up, and I'm glad that them and Booligan talked, but that's that.
I'm glad. I mean, and it's always nice to see more vendors entering the space, just because we don't really have, all that many, all things considered. I'm just saying, seeing some of the markups that they're charging, plus these issues, they just make me a little bit suspicious. Like I know I saw Ralph said that, they've been in business in California for 10 years. I'm just saying that, some of these things seem a little bit strange, is what my gut tells me.
So I can provide some insight to the markup. They don't actually like have the vendor accounts they need with 3D printing companies at the moment. So they're not like getting Polymaker at like vendor prices or getting like, Ender 3v2s at vendor prices. They're
flipping.
Yeah, they're just at the moment they're just buying those retail and flipping. I mean, I do know that they're trying to get their proper vendor accounts. I mean, that was like the thing with Polymaker. So my expectation there is that once they actually have those vendor accounts, their prices will be more in line with the rest of the industry. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pay their markups on stuff. But I'm also not the people they're trying to sell stuff to.
Yeah, no, because I understand that about maybe not having the vendor account set up. Logic would say maybe wait to start selling those products until you did, so you can build trust with your customers. I mean, I'm not them. I'm not operating in their space, so I don't want to speculate too much.
Well, that was part of what we were yelling at each other about. They were like, "Oh, like you like went from 0 to 100 really quick." Like I'm like, "Well, no, I didn't. Like." I didn't put your product pages up. You actually had infinite time before putting those product pages up to to do all of this legwork that you should have done. Like this isn't, like, yeah, I acted quickly, but like I didn't put the time pressure on. You listed those product pages when you did. Like you had all the time in the world before doing that. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, I would have waited on listing filament and printers until I could list them for prices that were competitive.
Because like I said, it's like I don't have a knowledge necessarily of being a vendor in this industry, but as part of what I do myself, during the day, it's like I know generally certain different aspects of industry, and these sort of problems that they're having right now are all reminiscent of growing pains that disruptive startups might experience, or people that are new in business, not for someone that's been in business for almost a decade. So that's what leaves me a little bit suspicious. But yeah, I mean, I hope it works out, because we need more vendors that are doing good stuff.
Honestly, that's pretty much kind of where they're at, though, because it's like, okay, like, yeah, they've been doing like 80s and like conventional firearms for that long, but they've been doing 3D printing stuff, like shit, Ralph has been printing longer than them, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, it's not surprising that they kind of had some missteps going into that. And like, I mean, shit, I mean, a gun store in California, I'm not surprised that they're marking stuff up. Like, that's well, that's kind of what I would expect.
I don't blame them, but like, I don't know, being in the state of California, if I was a California resident, I would be really suspicious of buying stuff from them, just having seen some of the stuff I've seen. But, then again, I'm, looking at the world through my rose-colored glasses, so that's just me.
Well, I mean, so this is kind of some of the stuff that I was talking about at Guns and Bitcoin, where it's like, okay, there's people like us that like we don't really need to like do any outreach to, because like we all find the idea of, like the actual like freedom in FOSCAD is like actually important to us, but like it's like we're like Linux users, it's like we are in it and we actually like the mission, but we're not like we're not most people. So I don't have a problem with companies like going out of their way to bring 3D printed guns to normies. But you have to actually respect the community that you're kind of like representing to those people.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just, I just want to, I don't know. I've had mixed feelings on gatekeeping, but, if there is any role that gatekeeping might play in making sure the community stays, friendly and affordable, I would just hate to see people that are brand new to the community be taken care of by essentially, people that at least to me, seem like they're coming off sort of like venture capitalists. So, I mean, I just hope that changes when they're, able to set up those vendor accounts. And I just hope that they haven't lost the trust of a lot of people by getting started too early and, getting this sort of mixed reputation is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, so that was like kind of what I was talking about with them is like, listen, guys, like you need to, like, I know like we're not your target audience, but like you can't get like a bad reputation within the 3D printing and like the 3D gun design community. Like that, those are the people who are going to, it's like, if this is a tech product, like, yeah, we're like not your market, but like we are your influencers. Like these people are going to be interested in that because like they saw like a PSR video or like saw a cool post on Reddit,
Well, like, this community is small enough and connected enough. I mean, it's a big community, but the main people, we're all connected enough that we talk to each other. And if somebody burns one of us, we all find out pretty quickly, and then everyone finds out about that. That's the real danger about about that sort of issue.
Yeah, and like I don't think that these guys like did anything maliciously. I just think they did some stuff ignorantly and tried to, and have been trying to fix it. So. I
know what you're saying.
It's hard for me because like I don't know, like I got really pissed off about it. I did kind of like go on the offensive, and like now I'm kind of like walking back my own actions and anger. But like
there's a lot of conjecture right now and a lot of different stories. Usually when bigger companies are put into this sort of position, there's either something like a public apology or at least someone, making a video to clarify the points and sort of bury the hatchet. So, I'm hoping
fair enough.
We'll see something like that.
But in this case, I don't think there was ever really like I didn't say any, like I was the person who was most mad at them initially. And like
there was no broad
I made a point not to say anything about it and to just give them the chance to fix the issues, and they did. So I'm happy to talk about it now because like now it's a topic of conversation, and I'm not like I'm not trying to like keep information from people, but like I don't like Well, I don't want to just like air dirty laundry for no reason and like cause drama for no reason.
Well, I mean, the thing is, people at least, or it's important for at least everyone to know this, like this type of a thing, because I mean, at the end of the day, if developers are the ones feeling like they're getting scammed, developers are the one that makes all the files that are going to be used on your printer. If you upset the people that are supposed to be making, the new business an actual business, then what's going to happen then? You're just going to have stagnation. You're just not going to have anything new. It's just
and I mean, like, you end up with a lot of distrust. Like, you'll end up with developers like putting more restrictive licenses on their files, which like I considered doing, and then decided like, no, like, okay, I'm not going to do that. That's silly. Being more private, being less open, not having like open betas, or like, worst case scenario becoming like a fucking, Darewood, and just like not sharing, the specifications for your bolt. Like, I think that's kind of like where this drama and mistrust leads, if it kind of like goes to its, final conclusion.
And I mean, I genuinely dislike the idea of this channel becoming a drama channel, but it's more or least one of those things of like, look, if developers are not going to, or I mean, it's great. Polymaker, I think that's fantastic. The Polymaker.
Yeah, dude, Polymaker fucking bros, dude. Like, holy shit. Like, I was very surprised by that. And like they like they're not all talk. Like I still recommend like eSun in my like readmes, because that's like what the frames were originally tested with. But like I've switched completely to Polymaker at home, because it's like, well, shit, like, yeah, you guys earned my business.
But the thing was, I mean, you basically had them. They pretty much, from what it sounded like, is that they didn't really understand that, or what you were describing to them, and it was really only until Polymaker kind of, pushed it into them that they really kind of started to listen to you.
Yeah, there definitely was a disconnect, and like they fundamentally didn't understand like the IP issues that like I was talking about. Like I think like actually thought that like because something was on the internet and like free as in money, it was also like free as in freedom to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases that's true. In some cases that's not. Like, I believe in freely making basically, the source files that you can then, modify or do what you will with for manufacture. Make those freely available for anyone who wants to personally make them. But that said, I think commercialization of open source designs, or however people decide to license it, is something I think as a broader community we have to talk about. Like, having better models, just to make sure that the devs that make all of this possible, don't feel like they're getting shafted, and to the point that they don't want to develop shit anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely like closed stuff off a bit. I mean, I remember after this, I was like talking to Van, and because we were working on the 43X stuff together, and I'm like, hey, what licenses do you put your models out under? Because if I wasn't already using GPL2, like, I would have been in a tough spot when this all happened. I wouldn't have had a leg to stand on, and so like, yeah, and like those aren't the conversations I want to be having. Like the conversations I want to be having are like, hey, how do I like make Glocks feel better and look prettier? Like
the conversations I want to have is, look, we made a 3D printed upper that is actually that's incredible. But like, I mean, this is one of those uncomfortable conversations where really no one was talking about it. I mean, it's if no one's going to mention, I mean, if you weren't the one actively going out there, if Bulligans, it sounded like they resolved it with you, but they didn't really do it with everyone else. So if people don't notice that this stuff, if no one's corrected on it, they're never going to change.
They need to get involved. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I see JSD's in here too, and they're doing. I mean, JSD can sit through Freeman basically berating them, and they will gladly listen and take some criticism. Like that's what I love about JSDs, that they're willing to listen to everyone.
Community outreach is huge.
Yeah, and I mean, just like it takes a little bit of time to like understand the culture. Like I've been trying to get Ralph to like browse K for instance. 'Cause I'm like,
Good luck with that.
I'm like, dude, like you just don't get the like culture, you don't get the memes. Like you have to actually like.
Well, it's an anonymity culture. That's what.
Yeah, like there's so much about this that like goes.
Spooky's mentioning it too. Not all of us want to be compensated. I think people also forget that too. Is not everyone goes into this with the idea of I'm going to be, I want to be, and you like, I want to get rich off of this.
Yeah, and I mean like that was part of like what I was talking about with like when we were in the like screaming at each other phase. They were like, "Oh, you're like burning bridges in this industry. Like you're gonna get, you're so fucking." I'm like, guys, like I give my models away for free. Like what bridges are like what people aren't gonna like take my free shit. Like, oh no, like you've taken all of the no money out of my fucking pocket. Like, oh no. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, then for other things like Glock parts are a little bit more common. Like, how about building a 1911? Like the cheapest I've ever been able to put a kit together for, has been maybe in the $265 range. Times all the calibers.
Hey guys, I got to get going and start putting dinner on the table. But
no, yeah. I mean, this is something I want to mention. Is look, these daytime streams are supposed to be more into like just the design stuff. This was kind of an exception. I'll say this: we'll be having a stream tomorrow, anyways, where we're going to be going through chip and stuff. Chances are, if any of you guys want, that's the link back. We'll be probably discussing this anyways at the same time, but that's probably a better place to do that.
But yeah, TLDR 1776. I'm cool with them now. It sounds like Wooligan had some resolution today. I mean, like, yeah, keep holding their feet to the fire, but it sounds like they're at least listening and making changes as needed. And if that's how all merchants treat us as this becomes more commercialized, like that's fine. We can't expect everyone who's coming in from the outside to get it. You know what I mean?
Right, and it's our job to at least let them know when they're wrong.
Yeah.
Look, Chairman, you're welcome to come in. Dr. Death, Freeman.
Thank you.
All of you guys are welcome to come tomorrow. Spooky, you should be there, hopefully. I hope everything's going well. But to close us off, Spooky, you wanted me to mention, or you wanted to talk about your mag before you left. Let's do that. End it on something.
Wear quad stack.
End it on something nice. Something. No more drama for the rest of the stream. Although I think Spooky might not be back right now. I think he went to get something. Well, either way,
ATF got him.
I'll let you two then say your final things. Either way, I'll also say that stream will be at 8 p.m. Central. Yeah, 8 p.m. Central time. So if you guys want to go to see, or hopefully we can finish up the conversations there. But yeah, Spooky, can you mention your mag you wanted to talk?
So just mentioning real quick right before we leave, because I gotta go. I got a tantrum child. Regarding Waffle 2.0, I've been getting a lot of requests for a lot of different, more niche mags. So like AK-74 mags, Mini 14 mags, that kind of stuff. I'm tempted to do those just to make Waffle 2.0 kind of like a big release where we just release all the mags at once. They're all waffleized and people can go nuts with them. I just kind of want to see what the popularity is among people and how many people have those kinds of, and what the demand is basically.
I can assure you, I already know a bunch of people that would just want more Waffle mags. But
oh yeah,
I was gonna say, get a hold of me anytime that you need anything. I'll help you. I'll try and get you more testers if that's what you need or anything.
AUG Waffle mags already released. What?
I think he's talking about this. Or I don't think Ralph understands that you also the AR-15 Waffle mags. I think he just knows about AUG Waffle mag, or because AUG's already had Waffle.
They're not Waffle. They're just regular mags. They're just
they're
AUG platform. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I see Ken's counseling or couch. That's an easy one. STLs don't convert back.
They do not. No, don't.
Yeah,
do not edit an STL. Don't.
Yeah, no. You want. That's why step files are important. That's a big thing. But
although for whatever it's worth, I'm kind of surprised the AUG doesn't just use AR-15 mags. That'd be stupid simple, but whatever.
Yeah, I know. Why didn't they just pattern it for AR-15? Why'd they go with their own proprietary shit? That's stupid.
Why doesn't everyone just use an AR-15? But okay. I guess let's everyone say their final goodbyes. We can finish this tomorrow. This is we need to keep this under 3 hours, at least for myself. All right.
Okay. Good talking to you guys. I gotta go. I gotta start.
All right.
I will.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh yeah, gladly. So, I mean, you guys have your final goodbye. I mean, Dr. Death, this was your big thing for everyone. It seems like not everyone remembered. The stream has gone through so many twists and turns that some people forgot that there was an AR up for her.
Well, you don't want to bore people. This is the best way to do it.
Right.
Thank you very much for having me on. I had a great time, and thank you all in the comment section for pointing out different things and telling me about being stupid or whatever it is that I did. And, you gave some very good questions. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm easily reached on Rocket Chat.
You also made a Twitter account.
Oh, God. Yeah, I have. It's so painful. I don't understand the tweeting.
If anything, there's a lot of people there and they might be able to DM you. So let me just show that, or it has a bunch of numbers. Actually, you know what? If you follow me on Twitter,
it's bad.
It. Yeah,
it's bad. Can I fix that? Somebody tell me how I can fix that.
You'll get help on Twitter, I bet. But yeah, at least keep your DMs open, if anything, so you can have people, I guess, that didn't listen. They'll be easier just way. Okay, you can guide them in.
Just make sure you count the lights to see if the DMs glow in the dark. That's how you know. Okay.
Freeman, your turn.
Yeah, so great as always. Thanks for having me on.
You cut out.
1911 stuff. Yeah, if you have anything. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, cool. Fucking Linux. But anyway, so yeah, 1911 stuff. If anyone has anything cool or weird that want to, beta test, it is otherwise closed, but cool or weird that I haven't already mentioned here, DM me and we'll talk. But hopefully another, month or two and we'll be ready to release pending, Rails and, testing and hopefully, nothing else catastrophic. But yeah, excited for that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably, wanting their boomer guns already. So maybe I'll see y'all tomorrow.
But yeah, no, all right. My final thing will be finishing up a high power video. That'll be fun. And tomorrow we'll be looking at, we'll hopefully have another bundle of spook stream. Just got to make sure, confirm with RK that we'll be listening to Chipman versus Pincus, in which I heard interesting things. And I heard Pincus did a very good job against Chipman, although it's Chipman. So really anyone can, as I bet he can just let him talk. And that's an easy way to win. So thanks for everyone that showed up. Hope everyone enjoyed the drama stream. Can't believe we talked about guns in the beginning of it, but hey, that's the fun. It's the fun of the live streams, isn't it? So, thanks to everyone that showed up. Hopefully, see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central, and have a nice day.
Have a good day.
See ya.
Good one.